EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, wrapping up the 2025 NFL Draft. 10 new Philadelphia Eagles plus a litany of undrafted free agents. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother, after a long couple of days of work?
Woo! Yeah, still recovering. Big day for the Eagles going down to the White House later this afternoon. They'll be honored there at about 4 o'clock on the South Lawn. And yeah, very close to the draft. So I got to be here and do a draft show, post-draft show.
Yeah, well,
people are fired up because the volume, baby.
Yeah,
I love it. We're doing.
Well, I got some different takeaways. I'm fired up, but I'm not. We got some things to talk about for sure, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about those things. You mentioned the White House visit, so the Eagles will do that later on today. I guess when you're dealing with the White House and a football team and all the players, you got to kind of take it when you can. But April 28th, though, a couple days after the NFL draft, I think there would have been a better time. But I digress on that. So we'll see what they do with that. Real quick, I do want to get a kick out of. I'll bring up Saquon Barkley because everybody seems to have their panties in a bind that he's riding on Air Force One. I'm like, hey, I would ride on Air Force One. I don't care who it was.
I don't care who the price. If I'm getting I said to you before that if they want to come after Burst 365 with Air Force One, I'll go down. I'll go down.
Marine One can drop right on the McMullen lawn, baby, and pick you up and take you to the White House. But I did get a kick out of it because a couple months or
he's golfing with Obama.
Yeah, right. So piss off one side with Obama and then go to the other side, ride around with Trump. So I like Saquon Barkley doing that. Good for him. So they'll be down there at the White House. Johnny Mac, what's your first thoughts, man, here on this Monday to the NFL draft? 10 new players, a bunch of undrafted free agents. We talked about the picks as they came. But just kind of as you sat here now for the last couple of days, what are your thoughts on the Eagles draft and what they were able to accomplish this year?
I thought it was because we were doing it obviously as it happened, but I think, you had that palpable feeling that everybody was disappointed because of what I was talking about, the lack of volume through day 2. And all of a sudden everybody's fired up because there's a bunch of guys in day 3. It's all about the volume, but from the standpoint of, what was accomplished, I think they got tremendous upside in the first round. That's what you're looking for so late in the first round, starting at 32, ending up at 31. They were trying to trade up in day 2. Still don't know for who, but do know they were trying to trade up, ended up taking Andrew Makuba at 64 overall. Very athletic, undersized, space-eating safety, and then a bunch of guys on day 3. I thought it was interesting how he explained the philosophy. Day 1, you're looking for difference makers. Day 2, you're looking for good. Second round, you're looking for good starters, and even the third round as well. They didn't have a third round pick, and then Day 3, you're looking for guys with that upside to become starters down the road. So he's talking a lot about traits, which we knew, but I like when he verbalizes this stuff so the fans can hear it. And they try to identify, all right, this guy's got this, and if we can work on some of the deficiencies, he can turn into a valuable starting level player. That's kind of their philosophy on the third day. But obviously on the third day, you're dealing with prospects that have deficiencies, and that's why they're on the third day.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff there, John. A couple of my qualms, all right, and we'll get into some of the good stuff as well. I like the Jahad Campbell pick. I love the Ty Robinson pick. He's probably one of my favorite picks in the NFL draft. We'll talk about the questions that will come up from some of these picks. Tyler Steen doesn't look like they drafted a guy who, still looks like it's his job to lose. Jordan Davis, Sidney Brown. We'll talk about some of the ramifications of the draft. Here are my qualms. I want you to tell me what you think of them. All right. My first qualm is you only got 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. And I think they've been so damn successful in the first 3 rounds recently. I would have liked to take another pick there. I understand you were at the back of the third round. They traded from 96, I think it was, to 101, and then they traded out again once that tackle got taken, but no, I have no way to confirm that. So that's my qualm number one. I would have liked another pick in the top 3 rounds just because I think they've been so successful there. My second qualm is there's a lot of undersized guys. I mean, we talked about this before going into the draft. Andrew Makuba is a smaller dude. Jahad Campbell, if he's going to play the edge, is a smaller dude. I don't know if that's going to be a big thing. They're clearly betting on athleticism and high ceiling players and not worried about that. And then my third qualm would be no tight end. I mean, even if you bring Goddard back this year, are we going to have the same situation next year that we're in right now where, if Goddard's gone, you don't have a guy in the room. So I would have liked a tight end, even if it was a developmental tight end later in the rounds. But those are the 3 things that I look at and maybe would have done differently. But overall, I think it was a pretty good weekend. What do you think of those?
I mean, I should have mentioned they tried to trade up as well in day 3. So again, sometimes you can't get, I think the assumption is way too often I say, well, you should trade up, you should do this, you need 2 sides. There's the other side.
Right.
And remember the Eagles, because they won the Super Bowl, which is a very good thing. They're starting at a lower position, which is a very bad thing. So, it's not as much ammunition. It's not as valuable as higher picks in that round. So it becomes more difficult just from that standpoint. And I think that was a lot of people asked Howie a couple times about other GMs being hesitant to trade with him because of his reputation. And he smacked it down on 2 different occasions and basically pointed to, look, we didn't have as valuable of assets as teams that are higher up on the draft board. And he was very, he said he saw no difference. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. Do you want to trade? Do you not want to trade?
Right.
So I think a lot of people misunderstand that part of it, just that he should have traded up. He was trying to trade up in both the 2nd round and the 3rd round.
Yeah, right. And obviously it has to work out on every side.
Yeah. And so ultimately they go back and I mean, there's always when you trade back from your position, whether it's no matter what round, you're not comfortable with who's on that board at that position. So a lot of people figure, were they going to take Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. Cleveland thought they were going to take him. I know that. I know there's a bunch of people around the NFL who thought they were going to take him at that point. Right. Does that mean it's true? No, because the Eagles certainly, I got no concrete. In fact, anything they kind of pushed back on it, but tilting towards no, they weren't going to do it. But they are in people's heads at times like that. And others certainly thought they were going to do it. So ultimately, and they didn't trade down from there, Now, there's also the position 145 is when they took Mac McWilliams, the cornerback from Central Florida. They didn't trade down. So maybe that is the guy they wanted at that particular. It's certainly plausible at the bare minimum. Or the other potentials, they couldn't trade down. They wanted to trade down at that point. They couldn't trade down. So that's potential as well.
Any truth in your opinion to people boxing out Howie Roseman? That's the latest talk amongst the fans.
That's what
Howie out nowadays because of all the.
Well, that's what I said. He was asked that on 2 different occasions, and he said nope, didn't get any feeling like that. But when you I always say, one of the amazing things about the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles was that I said all the time that Vic Fangio and Saquon Barkley specifically not only lived up to their reputation, they exceeded it, because people, blow human beings up like they're infallible, especially people they like.
Right.
And it's very hard to live up to the reputation. and Howie's got now this reputation of he can do no wrong and this and that. And, so when something happens, the assumption defaults to, oh, they're boxing him out. Well, all I can say is he said, no, that's not the case on 2 different occasions. And, he was trying to trade up in the 2nd round, trying to trade up in the 3rd round. Couldn't do it. I think it has more to do with starting at 32 and 64 in 96.
Yeah,
than
we won the
anything
Super Bowl. We because of that, you don't get a favorable draft position. That's how it works. But So what do you think of John? Let's go to Makuba. All right, we talked a lot about Jahad Campbell. Obviously, Makuba was the Friday night pick on day 2, so we haven't had a Birds 365 since that point. What do you think of the Andrew Makuba pick? I was just going back and forth with a couple of the people in the chat. A lot of people telling me they love him. A lot of people telling me, hey, he's undersized. I'm in the middle right now where I'm like, I see the undersized issue. He is a small dude. I mean, I saw the pictures you guys posted up of him at the facility, and I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty small safety. Now, he does have a good knack for playing the game, so I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player, but what is your perspective on the Andrew Makuba pick? And remember, there were a couple other safeties still on the board when they took Makuba. They had Kevin Winston, they had Xavier Watts, so a couple other options there, and they went with Makuba.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the pick, and I'd rather have Xavier Watts at that position, but he ended up going in the 90s. I just think he's a ball hawk. He's smart. He's played a lot of football. That might hurt. That might hurt his projection in the Eagles' minds because they don't like older rookies. But, for what they wanted, for Howie's explanation of what they wanted, and it was about, traits, and it's a traits draft, and he's, faster and more of a space eater. So for what they wanted, he makes more sense. The question is, do you agree with what they wanted? My biggest concern with the size is the way he plays in a different way. I always talk about Dallas Goedert. All Eagles fans think he's injury prone. And to a certain degree, he's missed a bunch of games over the years. Part of that is because of how physical he plays. And, when he broke his forearm, he's trying to win Kyle Bryant's Angry Run Award and trying to bowl over people. You saw it against Green Bay. Did the same thing. Didn't get hurt on that play. And Dallas, where it differs is Dallas has great size for his position. But I see a similar mentality for Makuba. He's very physical, but he doesn't have the body to be that physical. If you understand what I'm saying. So if he's trying to take on NFL running backs and like he did at Texas, I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah. He's going to earn himself that paper mache tag if he goes up against the wrong dude too many times, is what you're saying.
Well, and that's my point. He's not injury prone. There's no evidence he's injury prone, but he plays sort of he plays a lot like Sidney Brown without Sidney Brown's speed. Size.
Yeah.
He plays sort of that reckless, missile type mentality, but he doesn't have the size for it. That's my concern with him. Athleticism wise, he's off the charts, and clearly that's going to be a trend throughout this draft with the Eagles, as you'll see. The only guy who didn't have top tier traits was the last guy. Well, the last 2 guys, I should say, Cameron Williams. And then you're talking 6th round pick. And even he has to trade up size, I'm talking athleticism. And Antoine Powell-Ryland.
Yeah, I like that pick. I know you're not as high on him. I like that pick, man.
Well, he's just not he's not.
Yeah, he doesn't have the traits. And traits was a big part of this draft. They did bet on traits a lot of way through.
Yeah. So, people get excited by him because of the college production, but he doesn't fit in with the traits aspect of the draft.
Right.
So, you know, the entire draft, they went with super athletic guys up to that point. And then by that point, you're probably out of them. So you try to do the best you can. But so yeah, I mean, Makuba's, fine, solid pick. I don't like rating picks, but
Yeah.
you know,
What do you think it means for Sidney Brown?
he's the classic B. Um, I don't think it means anything for Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown's going to get the opportunity to start. I think Sidney Brown's going to be day one of training camp. He's going to be the starting safety. It's up to him to win the job, and it's up to Makuba to push him. That's what I think the goal is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that. The only thing I would say is, man, they've been the second round picks that have come out of the draft for the Eagles in the last couple of years. I mean, you got Jalen Hurts, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson. Last year you had Cooper DeJean. Like, if you're just going off the trend, you're like, Andrew McCoop is going to be a starter here in Philly. So I don't know if maybe, hey, is it possible in the future you have a Sidney Brown, Andrew McCuba tandem emerge? Maybe not this year, but down the line at safety?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't see, Reed Blankenship slowing down, though. I mean, he's still young, so
I don't
we'll
either,
see.
but are they going to pay him the 10 mil or whatever it would be?
Well, I think they're going to try to get him extended pretty soon, so we'll see how that works out. But and I don't know what that's going to look like, because he's an interesting negotiation, because he's wasn't drafted, but he's playing well. So
Right.
very similar to TJ Edwards back in the day. Yeah, how high do you go? But if you're able to get him for a cost-effective rate, he might be, he might get 3-4 year extension. So we'll see how that works out. But to your point about second round picks, like Landon Dickerson and Cooper DeJean specifically, I think Landon was 37,
Right.
and I think Cooper was 40. I know that. But they were also both considered first round picks. Had they not gotten injured, in the case of Landon, it was significant. Like, Landon was a first round pick, but he tore his ACL in the SEC championship game. And he ended up going 37th anyway. I mean, if he was healthy, he would have been early 20s, I'd say. And Cooper, a lot of people had the Eagles picking him at 22 if Quinyon wasn't there. I mean, he had some injury. People were concerned. Not as serious as Landon, but there's a big difference between 37 and 40 and 64. And even if you start talking about Jalen was 53, I think Cam was 51, you're going up the board.
Yeah. It all depends on the board each year, too. Like this year, it was kind of talked about the 20 to 50 were all in that same range. So maybe there was a little bit of a drop off there. The other thing is, that I noticed in this draft, and we're going to talk about the day 3 picks as well. We'll even give you guys the update on the undrafted guys. Obviously, we want to make sure Birds 365 community knows everything that went on with the Eagles. I think right now there was, I want to say 8 or 9 undrafted free agents. I think I saw reportedly signed with the Eagles, and then a couple others got invited to camp. So we'll run down those names as well. But John, the other thing and obviously you brought up how it takes 2 to tango, but it didn't seem like Howie was willing to pay a huge price in this draft to move up in the first, second, or third round. He stayed pat at, moved up one spot in the first, stayed pat in the second, and traded out in the third. So maybe the partner wasn't there, or maybe the asking price was too high. So it did seem like Howie was, he didn't have any big trades other than a couple move backs and a couple shake and bakes where he added a bunch of picks, but it was no big trade or anything like that. No, it didn't bring in a veteran. None of that happened in this draft.
No, but as he always says on day 3 afterwards, talent acquisition season isn't over for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, Howie's proven himself over the years. He will bring people in May and June, even before training camp in July. And if they get to training camp and they don't like what they see, they will, bring in people late, as you saw with, C.J. Gardner-Johnson most recently, but even if you want to go back to Ronald Darby or somebody like that during the Super Bowl 52 season, that was an August edition. So it's not over, but the main part of it is over,
Right.
of talent acquisition season.
Yeah. Still plenty of time to get players. You can think about Mekhi Becton. You can think about the cornerbacks we've gotten in the past. James Bradbury. Remember Steven Nelson? We got him like late in the year. So still plenty of time to get some of the players. John, let's move into day 3. Before I go into each individual player, I'll ask what you think of overall in day 3. Here's what I liked about day 3. I thought for the most part, every pick was a worthwhile shot in the, you're taking shots at that point. Obviously, some player, you're betting on traits, but I thought every player for different reasons specific to each player, I thought they were good shots in the dark on day 3. I love the Ty Robinson pick. McWilliams, I like. We'll see what kind of upside he has. I even like APR, Antoine Powell-Riley. I know you've said he doesn't have the traits, but shoot, you're in the 6th round and he's got 16 sacks last year, 25 and a half in 2 years. I'll take the shot on the dark on him. So I like the Cameron Williams, the offensive lineman. I thought overall they made good shots in day 3. What did you think of day 3?
Yeah, I like day 3 specifically for Ty Robinson, Smile Munden, and Drew Kendall and Kyle McCord. I think those 4 guys are legitimate potential NFL starters down the road, not early, not day 1. Now the problem from an Eagles perspective, they don't need a center for a long time, hopefully. And they don't need a quarterback for a long time, hopefully. So that might end up being other places down the road. But I'm just talking about the players. I think they have legitimate shots to be NFL starting level players. So I think, Howie kind of explained it. Yeah, 8 picks on day 3. If you got 3 starters out of that, you're cooking with gas. And I think ultimately in history, we'll say they got 3 starters. Again, I don't know if it's going to be here, but from a personnel depth, that's how they kind of grade themselves. Are these NFL players? Did they become NFL players, contributing players, starting players? And I think they did a good job on day 3 identifying those traits. With Munden, it's speed. With Kendall, it's savviness. You talk about his genetics, his dad, and he's just a natural center. And I thought it was interesting that Howie pointed out it's a center deficient league because it's not a natural trait. People can't snap the football, and too often other teams are, going in and say, well, we'll move this guy to center, more than having a center. And I think Drew Kendall's a natural center. With Kyle McCord, it's processing. And Ty Robinson, I mean, he's not going to fail for a lack of effort, lack of athleticism, just an impressive person. Who's pre-med playing football at that level?
I know, man.
Taking 19 credits. I mean, everything points in a positive direction with Ty Robinson. So those are the guys I like the most. There's also, Miles Hinton, whose dad is Chris Hinton, for those who don't know. Those, one of the greatest offensive linemen I've ever seen.
Big Sills knows Chris Hinton. He's supposed to be getting him on the show this week, his dad. So that should be good.
He's phenomenal. Well, he was phenomenal, Chris Hinton. But, his son hasn't, I think Chris might have been the number 4 overall pick way back in the day. That's how good he was. That's Lane Johnson territory. Obviously his son hasn't lived up to that in the college. He went to Stanford, very smart kid though. Went to Stanford and Michigan. And he's got his father's traits. And if Jeff Stoutland can tap into that, he could be a big time player as well. So I thought they took a lot of worthy shots on day 3. But I kind of grade it differently than most people. Like, I'm not looking for day 1 starters. We talked about it last year with the 5th round picks, and certainly not on this team. And again, you could tell with specifically 168 with Kendall and 181 with McCord, you could tell the Eagles were just taking the best players on their boards because they don't need those positions.
Yeah, they did get a bunch of offensive linemen. They signed a couple on the undrafted as well. So, man, there's a lot of offensive linemen. Jeff Dowlin's got a big group to work with, John, coming into camp this year.
Yeah, well, you always need. I mean, 90 guys. Understand, you always need a bunch of offensive linemen. You always need a bunch of speed people, wide receivers, cornerbacks, so and things like that. But yeah, I thought, and as I said, people just get excited by volume because they talk themselves into that. Like Smile Munden, linebacker, Georgia. People get excited by that,
right?
But he's another guy I think is a worthy pick. As a athletic linebacker, and if you think about what's going on at off-ball linebacker, Nakobe Dean, there's a bunch of different options, and 2 of them are he continues to be injury prone. That's a bad one, obviously. And or good in the short term, he continues to play at a high level, gets healthy, plays like he did last year, and then prices himself out of where the Eagles want to go. So you might have to start thinking about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Or now you have another guy, Smile Munden, and that's how it's pronounced, by the way, Smile. So now you have 2 guys. Maybe one of them hits. Same thing when you talk about right tackle. Maybe it's Miles Hinton. Maybe it's Cam Williams.
Yeah, right.
That
Nick Sirianni competition. There you go. That's what you're getting, a lot of that here. Smile Munden's a true off-ball linebacker, so he could be a potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
for all, well, I mean, there's certain people that aren't going to believe that Jahad Campbell's not an off-ball linebacker until they see it in Philadelphia. But
I'm already seeing that everywhere. Everybody wants him to be an off-ball linebacker. I mean, I don't think Howie used the 31 overall pick on an off-ball linebacker after paying.
Well, he freaking said it. I mean, listen to him.
I know,
Don't listen to me.
People will say to that, "Oh, now you're just going to take Howie at his word," and I get that. You can't always buy into what the team is telling you. But I'm with you.
I'll say that you can take Howie at his word. In that instance, not saying he doesn't play games in other instances, but in that instance, he was very clear how he evaluates the player. Now, Vic might get him and do something. If you want to hope, your hope is Vic Fangio. And Vic, but I would say this to be wary about that, because Vic was much more involved in the draft process this year than last year. So Vic's probably on board with, for a lack of a better term, the Andrew Van Ginkel projection of Jahad Campbell.
All right, so if you had fun this NFL draft, everybody watching the Eagles take 10 players, you better set your clocks for next year, because they got 3 third-round picks. All right, they got 2 fourth-round picks. They got 4 fifth-round picks and a 7th. They got a 1, a 2, 3 thirds. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks in next year's draft as it stands today. So they're loaded up for next year in the NFL draft. So we'll talk about, we'll see what happens next year. And if they use any of those picks to be able to shake and bake, maybe move up, make a trade, or whatever the case may be. Johnny Mac, any of the other day 3 players that we didn't talk about? Kyle McCord's interesting. You think Dorian Thompson-Robinson's out the door?
Yes, I do.
I do too.
unless he, potential practice squad. Depends, if somebody else needs a third quarterback, wants to pick him up off waivers, yeah, he's gone. If not, nobody's. Remember, when teams get to training camp, they're working with their own people. They have their own quarterback depth chart and they have their own developmental prospects. And, sometimes it's unlikely a fourth quarterback is going to be claimed off waivers for that reason. So, they could potentially get him back and carry him on the practice squad. But as far as the 53, yeah, I mean, barring injury, it's going to be Jalen Hurts, Tanner McKee, and Kyle McCord.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I don't really think he has a chance to take over for Tanner McKee at this point either. I think Tanner's earned that job.
No, he's not going to be the backup right away. But 2026, I would be stunned if he's not the backup. Something went wrong if he's not the backup.
Right. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Tanner McKee. A lot of good grades, John. Everybody out there. I know you're not a big grader, but I do get a kick out of all the experts who prepare everybody for the NFL draft.
Well, remember, half of those grades half of those grades are based on Jahad Campbell playing off-ball linebacker. So take it with a grain of salt. But, oh, he's a great fit. Jacoby's not going to be ready. Blah, blah. He's not going to be ready either, by the way. Most likely. We'll see.
I don't know what to make of that Jahad Campbell thing, man, because everybody seems, I trust you. And I listen to you, and I'm like, what you're saying makes complete sense. Seems like what the Eagles want to do. It's what Howie said. But then there's just all these people out there. Jahad Campbell's an off-ball linebacker. He's an off-ball linebacker that can rush. So.
They're not listening. Look, I did it for years. It is impossible to understand the intricacies of 32 teams. It is impossible to sit there and talk. You can't talk to 32 general managers.
Right.
They don't know his plans. They don't know his plans. And by the way, and this is a strictly coincidence. Because, we do this show every day. I talk from early in the process. I think Campbell's more of an edge rusher than he is an off-ball linebacker. That just happens to coincide with the Eagles' thought process. But most people graded him as an off-ball linebacker, same as they did with Micah Parsons back in the day. And most didn't grade Abdul Carter, but he started at Penn State as an off-ball linebacker, just like Micah. And then they gave him the option better. What do you want to do? And of course, he made the smart decision, and he's very good at it. So Abdul Carter's ends up being the third pick in the draft. How we brought up those two players specifically. Look what Penn State has done.
Right.
To your point, and you have it right, you're not taking it off all life. Everybody's Jerry Robinson. You can still say since 1979 because he didn't take it off ball linebacker in his mind. And if you want to call it weapon, because he used that term, and they've used that term in the past with Saquon, a defensive weapon. Because he might play some off-ball linebacker.
Right.
And that's why I bring up Van Ginkel. But he's not going to be Nakobe Dean, middle linebacker. And when it's 3rd and 13, and they have their 4 rushers on the field, one of them is going to be Jahad Campbell, or things have gone not well over the summer.
I would say the good part about that is if he fails miserably as a pass rusher, which I don't think he's going to, I think at its very worst, you have a pretty damn good off-ball linebacker. And again, I don't think they're going to use him that way, but like if it all goes to shit in terms of the edge rushing and the Van Ginkel role, I think he is going to be.
Well, you can. I don't like that thought process. Well,
I'm looking at worst case scenario.
Well, worst case scenario, if he's shit in the Andrew Van Ginkel role, he's probably going to be shit in the other role, to be honest. But
I don't know. He was pretty damn good off-ball linebacker.
Well, I know you're an Alabama guy, but
He
look,
was. Though.
I
He
told
can
you,
fly around, John. His sideline to sideline
I don't
speed is
the flying around ain't the problem. The instincts is the problem. If you take if
right.
you take I always bring up Jack Del Rio because I'm old and everybody, well, he can't run. He's one of the best zone coverage linebackers I've ever seen in my life. He never took a false step. The next one will be the first one.
Right. Which is a big thing at linebacker.
Whereas, and then I always bring up Dontarius Thomas, who's an Auburn guy, phenomenal athlete, 4'3", smart guy, knocked out, got phenomenal grades. He was a 4.0 guy, big SAT guy, whatever it was, ACT. I don't know if it's down south, whatever it was. All I remember is everybody talking about this guy, how smart he was, and this and that. And he was book smart wise. He wasn't football smart. So he ran like the wind, and he's taking false steps off all over the place. And 4.4 at linebacker turns into 4.9 real quickly if you take one false step. Whereas somebody like TJ Edwards, who has those natural instincts. So when people talk about Zach Bond and all the athleticism, and it's there, but the reason Zach Bond turned into Zach Bond, and the reason Vic Fangio turned him and said, instincts, natural instincts. That's what you need a linebacker.
We'll see what
and there's some people, and I joked about that early. I remember saying it. I go, this is how crazy this draft was. I always talked about the range, and Walter Nolan might go 11, he might go 32, yada, that type of thing. And I brought up Campbell. I don't know if you remember. And I'm reading scouting reports, and one guy goes, he's got tremendous. One guy, and these are two people I respect. I don't want to throw him under the bus. And one guy said he's got tremendous instincts, and the other guy said he's got no instincts for the position. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What is going on? But when I watch him myself, I see edge rusher. Just like I saw with Micah Parsons.
Yeah. Going to be interesting to see what happens there with Jahad Campbell. We'll be following all along here on Birds 365. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here this morning. We got a lot of people in here. All right. So good to have all you guys in here. Wrapping up the NFL draft, 10 new picks for the Philadelphia Eagles. Looks like 9 undrafted free agents as it's reported right now. We'll talk about them in a little bit on the show. John, real quick, I do want to ask you about any other teams. And I know you're following the Eagles, so it's very hard to kind of, as you just mentioned, follow all 32 teams. But did any other teams stick out to you? I'll tell you one team that stuck out to me this draft, and they reside in the NFC East, and that's the New York Football Giants. I thought they had a great draft. Did any teams stick out to you that had a good draft outside of the Eagles this year?
Well, as usual, I would say Baltimore. Now there's a lot of people that are, going to put on their fake high horse and talk about Mike Green, and say, I wouldn't take that guy and blah, blah. I'm just talking purely from a football perspective.
People that might not like Mike Green, but that might be the best value pick in the entire draft.
That's what I'm saying. And again, you can be on that high horse. That's fine. I'm just talking purely from a football perspective. To get Mike Green in the second round and the best pass rusher in the draft, and people make the Justin Tucker jokes. Well, Justin Tucker's been a kicker for how long? Till he started descending and had some problems. If he keeps his nose clean and stays out of trouble, he is the best pass rusher in this draft. And they got him in the second round. So the Ravens always do typically a good job. I like the Cowboys better than, even though I think they overdrafted Tyler Booker, I like them better than the Giants for this reason. They got Ezeraku on day 2, the Cowboys. I love that pick. They got Jaden Blue on day 3, a home run hitter. I think that was a good pick. With the Giants, look, Abdul Carter. First of all, the Giants should have had a good draft because they're picking so high in every round. So that's part of it. And they had a home run, but I think they got the best player in the draft. But they also took a quarterback who, I mean, come on. The only reason he's a first round quarterback is because there's no other first round quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the thing with that is they do need a quarterback. So like,
well, yeah, but yes, they need a quarterback, and they didn't get a quarterback. As far as I'm concerned.
But remember what you talk about with these guys, John. They're fighting for their job. Like if they don't take a quarterback this year, and they have the best draft in the world, but they don't have a quarterback, both the coach and the GM are fired next year.
Well,
so you got to do it. That's where it's like you kind of have to give them a little bit of leeway. I mean, at least they didn't take them 3 overall.
People can do whatever they want. I don't have to give them leeway.
Right,
I mean, to me, it's a bad quarterback draft. Don't take a quarterback. And yes, and that's part of the problem. I bring it up all the time. They're GMing. Joe Sheen is GMing for his job. Brian Daboll. They're not necessarily. That's part of the problem with the NFL with bad teams. They're not necessarily, as Howie would say, being a steward for the organization, doing what's best for the organization no matter what.
Right.
And I'm not blaming them for that.
Yeah,
I'm saying that's the reality of the situation. And they need a quarterback, but this was not the draft to get a quarterback. And they took a quarterback. You're right, because they had to take a quarterback. I have no confidence that kid is going to be a starter in year one, even though, by the way, when I say that, he is going to be a starter, not a starting level quarterback in year one. Not to say he can't develop down the road, probably, as you mentioned, with a different GM and a different coaching staff. And then, so it was back and forth like that with the Giants. I like the Darius Alexander pick.
Yeah.
Their defensive line, we talked about it, is great on paper. Just adds to it with Abdul Carter, and they already had a good defensive line. And then they draft like Cam Scatterbo. I mean, it's like, what you're trying to make people happy? Like, I don't like that pick.
I like Marcus Bowe or Mbo, however you pronounce his name. I think that was a good pick. 6'4", 300 plus pounds, and that dude's an athletic freak.
Yeah, he's an athlete, but he's going to be a guard. And that's one of the things, because he was, one of the Eagles visits, and there was a lot of focus on him here. And I'm like, and I'm just talking about the Eagles, not the Giants, because I don't know what they're trying to do on their offense. I haven't known for a decade, but I know what the Eagles try to do with their offensive line, specifically at guard. And he's projected at guard at the pro level. He's not a fit for the Eagles. I said that on the show. He said he's not strong enough. They like big, strong, physical guards.
Right.
And, if the Giants want to go in a different direction and go zone blocking, old Denver Broncos style, maybe he's a fit, but their history with offensive linemen ain't great.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
good.
Carter's phenomenal. Best player in the draft. So they had a home run there. I don't like the quarterback. I like Alexander. So it was back and forth. I would say they should have had a good draft, considering where they picked everywhere.
I'm pretty sure they took Darius Alexander 1 pick after the Eagles took Andrew Makuba. So the Eagles had the option. Maybe Alexander wasn't even on their board, but I had a feeling going into that pick, the Eagles were going to take Alexander. They took Makuba, and then Alexander went. Obviously, that was the next day because that was the end of round 2. But the Giants took him the next pick later. What do you think of that? That the Eagles passed up on Alexander.
I Martin Frank had him taken there. We were having little back and forth, coffee bets. Who are the Eagles going to take in certain picks? And he was a Martin Frank pick at 64. Wouldn't have surprised me at all. But they went in a different direction. Both spots are needs. So it's were needs. Ultimately, they ended up getting Ty Robinson. So I think that softens the blow. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I think a lot of people saw Watts and Winston and said, "Oh, well, why don't you take those?" Because people get hyped up. And by the way, you know, um, he was a high level player at a big time college. You know, Texas made the college playoff semifinal, I believe. So, I mean, what for the people who say, well, they got to take Watts or they got to take Winston because of what they did at Notre Dame and Penn State. What about what he did at Texas? And, the Eagles wanted more speed, and he's a faster than both those guys by pretty significant margin. So, I mean, for what they were looking for, he was the better fit. Now, doesn't mean he's going to be a better player. We'll see how that works out. But I do think, for whatever reason, people latch on the big names, and Watts and Winston were considered bigger names. And I don't even know why that's the case, because I pointed out, well, what's the difference between Notre Dame and Penn State and Texas? Yeah, well, one made the finals and but they were all, top 8 teams, basically, in college football last year. So why isn't he getting that deference?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, Texas was the first year in the SEC last year too. So good stuff there. Speaking of big offensive linemen, as you were talking about with the Giants, how about the one undrafted free agent? We'll talk about the undrafted free agents now a little bit, just to give you guys the rundown on who they are. We never did a report on them. Rutgers offensive tackle Holland Pierce. He is 6'8", 340 pounds. How's that for a big boy for Jeff Stoutland University? Holy moly.
Yeah, and he's got like a 36-inch wingspan. So he's got like an NBA player wingspan.
Yeah, arm length and percentile, 99th percentile.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, I always look at, first of all, I think it's more difficult for the Eagles to get undrafted guys because they're so good and they don't have a lot of open jobs. So guys have smart agents. Some do, some don't. They look around the league and say, all right, this team needs this. Let me shop my guy to this team. And the Eagles don't need a lot. So I'm surprised. They got some pretty high level undrafted guys. Now, part of it maybe is just the cachet of being the Super Bowl champions. But specifically with Holland Pierce, they just drafted Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams. Yeah. Like, I don't know who his agent is. I haven't looked it up yet. But I would have steered him in a different direction. I mean, what
an uphill battle?
Yeah. Now, hey, and I wrote about this at SI when I was doing the undrafted kids. I said, that said, long term, the Jeff Stoutland seal could generate him some opportunities elsewhere. So, what's going to happen is probably he's going to go through the summer, hopefully learn a lot and get cut, and maybe somebody picks him up. Maybe they don't. Maybe spend some time on the practice squad, but he faces a daunting numbers game. Daunting. I mean, they have Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, most notably. They brought in They brought Matt Pryor back. They brought Kendall Lamb, who's a veteran. They draft Miles Hinton. They draft Cameron Williams. I mean,
and 4 of them are paid big money, so there's only one spot. I mean, there's only one spot available.
I'm just saying, I would have steered the kid in a different direction, but maybe that's how valuable.
Joe brings up a good point here. Maybe he wanted to learn from Stoutland. Maybe it was a Stoutland.
I just said that. I said long term, maybe the Jeff Stoutland seal is valuable to the ultimate end game, but. Again, with undrafted guys, the job of the agent is to shop them to teams that need their position. And the Eagles do not need that position, to say the least. So it was just, that one was a little bit strange to me. Now, Montrell Johnson, Florida running back, so people might recognize him, got some decent speed. I think he could push Ty Davis Price for the developmental role behind Saquon and Will Shipley and A.J. Dillon and those guys.
Yeah. I like that. I like that guy. He was a physical running back in college. He was pretty good.
They signed a Toledo safety who was Quinyon Mitchell's roommate at Toledo, Maxon Hook. And they do have
two Toledo guys. They got the linebacker and the safety. It's interesting. Interesting after Quinyon comes here from Toledo.
Yeah. Well, Nick has very close ties to the Toledo coaching staff. One of his old roommates is on the Toledo coaching staff. So he's got very close ties to that program.
To their coach, right? The Jason Candle, I think his name is, the head coach.
Yes. Yeah. Couple slot cornerbacks. You see that's an emphasis, trying to find a backup slot. They signed B.J. Mays from Texas A&M, Brandon Johnson from Oregon. They're both slot guys. And they drafted Mac McWilliams, who's going to be a slot guy. And then a couple return guys, Derek Powell, big-time numbers at Central Arkansas for production people. He's got, he's really small, 5'7"-ish. And then Wake Forest receiver Taylor Morin, who's, more of a return guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got return abilities.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that's funny, he's got the funny name, the running back, Derek Powell.
Yeah, he's tiny. He's tiny. But he had like massive numbers at Central Arkansas for all the 3 1,000-yard seasons. But he's 5'7". And he had 3 1,000-yard seasons, one at North Alabama. Oh, that's another thing. All these guys got multiple schools almost all of them, except for the Wake Forest kid.
Yeah, teams are going to have to get over that because that's only going to get more and more popular in the future.
Yeah, I shouldn't say everybody, but Maxon Hook stayed at Toledo. But a bunch of guys. Dixon, who was the Toledo linebacker you spoke of, played at Penn State, West Virginia, and Toledo. Mays started at Incarnate Word, which has become more famous because of Cam Ward. Alabama, Birmingham, before finishing up at Texas A&M. Guys jumping all over the place in college.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, we'll take our commercial break. We'll come back. We'll continue to analyze the NFL draft. We'll talk about what's on the agenda today for the Birds. They are set to meet with the White House today. They'll be down at the White House on the South Lawn to celebrate their Super Bowl championship. That'll go on later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Saquon Barkley, for those who missed it, was riding on Air Force One and Marine One and golfing.
Oh, my God, the humanity.
Golfing with, I get a kick. Somebody comment, the less you talk about politics. I'm like, okay, just because this dumbass can't handle mentioning Donald Trump, I'm not going to cover what the Eagles are doing. They're going to the damn White House. Shut up already. But I digress. We'll talk about that when we get back. We'll continue to break down this NFL draft. We'll also look around the NFL as well. I want to get John's opinion on some of the other things that happened in the draft. Obviously, the Shedeur Sanders story is an interesting one. All sorts of different things happened in the draft. It is funny, John. It was like the Shedeur Sanders show all weekend long, man, with this guy. And now he's the number one pinned tweet on the NFL, on their Twitter, on their Facebook, on their Instagram. It's like, man, what is going on with that whole thing? But interesting stuff. We'll take our commercial break. 2 super chats to get to before we do it. Nick Gonzalez says, I want a John crash out like Mel did for Shedeur. Yeah, Mel was going crazy. But people, everyone's like, Mel's going to get fired. I'm like, you don't understand. That was great TV. The networks are happy about that. You might not think they are, but I know they are.
I don't know what Mel did with Shedeur, but
he was just crashing out on the set because he wasn't getting taken. So he was like, the NFL's failed to evaluate quarterbacks for 50 years. For 50 years, nobody knows what they're doing except me. It was hilarious.
Quarterback evaluation is broken. You've seen that.
Well, that's what he was saying.
I say it all the time. At the pro level, it's broken. Never mind at the college level. But I mean, I told people, NFL up to the draft, everybody I talked to wasn't as high on Shedeur Sanders as some of the draft people were. And I warned people of that. No, I didn't think he was going to fall to what
Yeah, fifth round.
144. But it didn't surprise me that he wasn't a first round pick at all. At all. To me, it came down.
You said it in the week of the draft, maybe last Wednesday or Tuesday. I'm guaranteeing 2 quarterbacks get taken, and Shedeur Sanders is not one of them. And you hit the nail on the head. It was the 2 you said, Jackson Dart, and obviously Cam Ward.
Yeah, it came down to who did the Giants like better. That's basically what it came down to. And I was pretty confident it was going to be Dart for a few reasons. But then that's the thing. Then the ball starts. Now, I didn't think it would fall to the level it did, but there's in any particular draft, and this happened to Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers could have been the number 1 pick in the draft, and he ultimately ended up going, I think, 21 or 22. The decision was between Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers at the number 1 pick. And they chose Alex Smith. And then he fell all the way to, and that's the difference between 1 and 20, because other teams weren't looking for quarterbacks at the time, as strange as that sounds. There's even in quarterback deficient times we live in, there's only a handful of teams looking for quarterbacks at the top of the draft. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Kyle McCord should have been a 3rd round pick from just a grading standpoint. But teams aren't looking for quarterbacks at that point. He gets pushed down the board.
I kind of like what the Steelers did, John. They waited and waited and waited. Everybody's like, what are you doing? You got Mason Rudolph. They pick up Will Howard in the 6th round. I think that's 1 6th rounder that actually has a chance to play football this year in the NFL.
No, it's not going to be good. And don't get me wrong. I mean, you have Kyle McCord and catastrophe strikes here. It's not going to be good.
Well, no, but here's what I'll say. I mean, would you rather go to the Browns and play and, they don't have a great team around you, or would you rather go to the Steelers where they prioritize their offensive line? They got good skill position players now with obviously DK Metcalf and George Pickens. They got the tight end Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. They got pieces around you, which makes your onboarding into the NFL a whole lot easier versus if you come into the league and you can't block anybody, and you're running like a madman all over the place. I think Will Howard could have a slight chance to succeed in Pittsburgh, actually.
Well, long term, possibly. I just mean immediately. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty. All these guys, all these day 3 quarterbacks, they can all turn into Tom Brady in theory. It's not, the odds are not great, but I mean, but it takes time and development, and they're not ready right now. But I mean, that's the case. Look, you're not going to find a more gifted quarterback than Caleb Williams. You're not going to, at least for a number of years. You can go back to Andrew Luck. A lot of people called Andrew Luck the best prospect since John Elway at the time. But of recent drafts, Caleb Williams, from a traits, physical ability standpoint, you're not going to find better. It's a fucking disaster.
People are going to hear you say that and say, what the hell are you talking about? Caleb Williams stunk last year.
Yeah, exactly. Quarterback evaluation is broken because they assume, well, you have to, because Jaden Daniels had the season he had. Why can't he do that? Or CJ Stroud, why can't he do that? Situation matters. He did not go to the best situation.
Yeah.
Now he also either did Jaden Daniels. And by the way, for anybody who doesn't watch the show, I said I would have taken Jaden Daniels first, but not because he was more talented than Caleb Williams, because I saw some of that at USC, some of the bad body language and and you got to be a leader at that position.
Yeah.
So there's holes, but I'm just saying from a physical standpoint, you're not going to find a better quarterback prospect than Caleb Williams. Now, what you do with him then determines the ultimate end game. In development, you don't just draft a great quarterback. You don't. Even Jaden Daniels, there's a lot of holes in his game that need to be worked upon. You saw some of the little pockets where he played poorly. Same thing with CJ Stroud. Had the great rookie season, all of a sudden steps back. What happened to CJ Stroud? Well, he's probably a better quarterback last year than he was his first year, in a weird way, just from learning and understanding.
He got better at actually playing the position.
Yeah, but people look at, well, the stats were worse. And that's why quarterback evaluation is broken. Unless they're all playing in the same vacuum with the same supporting cast and the same everything, then you can properly gauge where a quarterback should be. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So it's a little bit more contextual than that. But as far as physical gifts, Cam Ward certainly doesn't have Caleb Williams' physical gifts. I don't know who's going number 1 overall next year, but he's probably not going to have Caleb Williams' physical gifts. We might get to a point where somebody does again, but it's going to be a while.
Going to be Arch Manning maybe next year. One more super chat here. Kyle Studer checks in. What's up, Kyle? J-Mac, do you think there is any merit to collusion amongst NFL owners regarding not drafting Shedeur Sanders until the 5th round?
No. He's, I've actually had this discussion with Jeffrey Lurie about he's incredible, going way back to the Colin Kaepernick stuff. He's like, what basically, and I'm paraphrasing, what do people think that we're on a conference call? And
yeah, right.
What? I mean, these guys, this is not Jeffrey. These guys would sell, most of them would sell their soul to win football games.
Definitely not all of them. Can't say that about all of them.
Well, most of them would. Now, where it comes in, there's a lot of owners who don't want to put their pocketbook where they
want to win where their mouth is.
Yeah, but they want to win. If you said, "Hey, draft Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to guarantee you 2 Super Bowl championships," everybody in this damn league would sign up. No, there's no collusion. And what they said, oh, we're going to take him in the 5th round and we're going to trade up in the 5th round. Now it's fine. Roger Goodell, I don't know what the conspiracies are. Roger Goodell calls up Cleveland. Hey, now it's fine to take him because we sent this kid a message. Some of the wild theories, conspiracy theories, nobody cares. They just didn't think he was as good a prospect as most of the draft people did. Occam's razor. I say it all the time.
They thought he was like a Will Howard and like a Kyle McCord. That's where he went. And he went
a little bit better than Will Howard and Kyle McCord.
Yeah. Good stuff there. Kyle Studer, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365 to continue to break down the Eagles NFL draft. 10 new selections, 9 undrafted free agents. We talked a little bit about them and a whole lot of people coming. John, when does the rookie camp start? Should start pretty soon, right? Like at the end of the week maybe or next week?
They usually do it the second week. They have been. It's not official yet, but I assume since they're going to the White House, it might be this Friday. I doubt it. It'll probably be next the Friday after.
Got it. Good stuff there. We'll take our commercial break. Appreciate you being here. Hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 here, getting to the end of April. It's April 28th, moving right along in the offseason. Just wrapped up the NFL draft. 10 new players selected for the Philadelphia Eagles, plus a litany of undrafted free agents here. We talked about most of them there in hour number 1, so we appreciate all you guys being here. We'll continue to break it down, see what it means for the roster, and kind of analyze it as we continue to move through the offseason and get ready for the next football season. John, one guy I want to ask you about, the 5th-round draft pick is McWilliams. I know we talked about him briefly in the open, but I kind of want to get your take on him and what you project him to be. You know, I'm looking for the replacement to Isaiah Rodgers. Do you think that's what McWilliams is? What do you project him to be for this football team?
No, well, no, not certainly as a rookie. Isaiah played a lot as the cornerback 3. And hey, you hope that doesn't have to happen. Yeah, he only played because of, injuries to Slay during the season, and he would come in and play effectively, and then Quinyon late. So, number one, you want Quinyon Mitchell to play the entire season. You want whomever wins the starting job on the other side, Kaylee Ringo, would be the number 1 option. And then Adoree Jackson would fit in as sort of the Isaiah Rodgers cornerback 3. I think that's the Eagles' penciled in plan if everything goes correctly. And then again, you're talking about a 5th round pick. I mean, Mac's going to make the team, and he played outside in college. He projects inside, so you have some versatility. That's down on the depth chart, and hopefully can develop into that role. Whatever that looks like, if Cooper moves outside eventually, can he play the slot? But yeah, I mean, similar to what we talked about with last year's 5th round picks. I mean, you saw the trajectory, for some of them, less than others. But with Trotter, a lot of people were excited for his name. Trevor Keegan, national champions at the time, and Anaya Smith was a big name because he was a skill position player. The only one who had a real impact on the team was Trotter, and that was mainly special teams.
Right.
So to have a significant Isaiah's role ended up being pretty significant last year. I think that would go to Adoree Jackson. Now, a lot of different moving parts because of Cooper DeJean, who can play anywhere basically. And if everybody fails, they might move him outside. Then you need a nickel corner. And that's why. But they need a backup for not only Isaiah Rodgers, but also Avonte Maddox. So we've been talking about how they need to repopulate the cornerback and the secondary room as a whole. And he's certainly going to be a part of that. But I think, if he contributes on special teams and gets meaningful contributions that way, I think that's a positive as a rookie. And hopefully he's got that long-term trait that Howie's talking about to turn him into a starter or a potential starter down the road. Probably in his case, it would definitely be the slot.
Good stuff there. John, I want to ask you some general questions about the overall class. Your favorite pick for the Philadelphia Eagles this year was who?
Oh, let me pull them up. Let's see.
I'm going
Campbell. My whole thought, I don't like to take the 1st round pick. I mean, that's your best.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, so I'm taking Jihad out of the equation. And I would say my favorite pick, and it's probably not going to matter here, is Kyle McCord. I think he's a good. I talked about it throughout the process. I think he's better than Will Howard. I think he's got a chance to be a lower level starting quarterback in the NFL down the road. It's not going to be here unless things go drastically wrong from an injury standpoint. But I think for the value at that position, and again, if he, plays well in the preseason, maybe has to play a game or two if he can play well when he is the backup, probably by 2026, maybe Howie can turn that into an AJ Bealey 2nd round pick or something like that down the road.
Right.
Like, it's not going to be here where he's going to, but I think he's got a chance. I do. And then I mentioned, I don't see how Ty Robinson fails from the stand.
He's my favorite he's my favorite pick. If you take out Jihad Campbell, he's my favorite pick.
Yeah, and he's going to be of all the day 3 picks, he's got a chance to be a rotational part of the defense early on, and a part of the team early on. So probably for immediate gratification, I think people are going to be most excited about Ty Robinson. Long term, I would say, and again, it's not even here, Kyle McCord, and then Munden as well. I think he's going to be a starting linebacker in the NFL at some point.
Yeah, that should be interesting to see. John, biggest risk. Who's the riskiest pick they took this year? I will say this: last classes, big upside. I think this class does have a little bit of a bigger bust potential than we've had in previous years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, clearly it's Makuba. I mean, that is a big risk. And people are going to remember, I talked about it with the difference between 37 and 64. People aren't going to think about it that way. This kid's a second-round pick now till the day he leaves the NFL. Nobody's going to say, yeah, but he was the last pick. What's the difference between 64 and 65?
Yeah, right.
Nobody's going to say that. He's always going to be a second-round pick. And if you're a second-round pick, you got to develop into a starting safety. And especially with bigger names, for whatever reason, but they were, Xavier Watts and Kevin Winston. And if they turn into good players, because again, nobody's going to put that context of situation. But then again, also from Philadelphia's perspective, they had the best defensive coordinator in football. So if anybody's going to get the best out of him, it's going to be Vic. But he, to me, is the biggest risk by far.
Yeah. Speaking of Vic Fangio, I do think I saw a lot of Vic Fangio in this draft. I think he's got a lot of say in that room, Johnny Mac, now.
Well, that's why I get a kick out of the Campbell stuff, like Howie's out on an island. That's
right. Howie didn't walk up to the podium and say he's going to be in that type of role without talking to Vic Fangio first.
Exactly. I took a picture of Vic. They do this big. I didn't get a great picture, but I put it up.
I did see that on social. Yeah.
I got, they do this big sort of class picture afterwards, but everybody in the organization, and there was Vic sitting next to Dom. But yeah, I get a kick out of people thinking like Howie's nuts and Vic's not in his ear. And he even mentioned during one of the questions about Vic's impact on him and how he evaluates players. Like if Jihad Campbell's not playing on the edge, something's going wrong.
We'll see what happens there. Immediate contributors from this class. I think 3 are going to contribute on this football team. Obviously Makuba, obviously Campbell, and I think Ty Robinson's a lock to contribute. I'm not sure what you think of that, but immediate contributors from the class. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, Campbell's obviously going to play a lot. Makuba's got a chance. That'll be a competition. And Ty Robinson, you would think bare minimum is going to be the 4th man in rotation inside. So those are the 3 guys. Everybody else, I would say, unlikely to contribute. But of the rest, the ones like Drew Kendall might be the most ready to contribute, but he's not going to play at all. Center's not a rotational position. You're never going to see Drew Kendall unless there's a serious injury. Munden has a chance to get on the field early if Nakobe's not ready, and he plays better than Trotter over the summer. He's got a small chance to get some work. Everybody else, I think, is more of a red shirt type situation. Yeah. And there's certain, and because there's so many draft picks, you're probably going to see the rare cut draft pick, maybe 1 or 2. Maybe Miles Hinton, Cameron, maybe one of those 2 guys makes the 53 and the other one has to go to the practice squad. And, Powell Ryland is probably going to go to the practice squad to start. Unless guys like Ojulari and Boucher completely, what the bed.
Yeah, shit the bed. No doubt about it. So who's your biggest sleeper then in the class? Mine's the 6th rounder, Antoine Powell Ryland. I'm like, this guy, maybe he's a contributor. I'm not saying it'll be year 1, but he's my biggest sleeper. Who you got, John?
Well, if you're talking long term, if you're saying this year, I don't know.
There isn't one this year.
Think about how many guys would have to fail for Antoine Powell Ryland to even get an opportunity.
A lot.
There's just no path. similar to what I was saying about the undrafted kid at tackle. It's like, why the hell are you coming here? There's no path. Yeah, long term, that's what Howie said. He explained they all have a particular trait that they think that they could turn into a starter, and most of it's athleticism with McWilliams and Munden. With McCord at quarterback, it's about processing. Hinton, with Williams, it's size. With Powell Ryland, it's more savviness. Bigger pass rushing toolbox than most young players. Drew Kendall, it's savviness as well with genetics and just experience, and being one of the few real centers. So they all have one trait to build on, at least one NFL starting level trait, as Howie would call it. But long term, I think Drew Kendall's going to be a starting center in the NFL. Probably not going to be here, but it's going to be somebody. So if I'll say the safest pick, Drew Kendall. How's that?
I do like I like Hinton too, man. I think Hinton's a great pick.
Oh, he's boom or bust.
He's boom or bust, but at that spot, you took him in the 5th round, or is he a 6th rounder?
He's like, I think Williams is more ready. Certainly a better college player. Not even close.
Yeah, they were both 6th rounders. Yeah, I like Hinton. He's 6'7", and he's got obviously his dad's Chris Hinton, but
that's what I'm saying. He's got his dad's traits and abilities and God-given. He's got all that, but he never played like his dad. So, I mean, can Jeff Stoutland tap into that? Maybe. But he's the one boom or bust guy, I think, where it's like, he could be something or he could be nothing. He might have the biggest upside, and he might have, we always talk about floor and ceiling. He might have the highest ceiling and the lowest floor.
So the biggest range. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's basically, you can even look at it. If you go to his NFL.com draft page, not that they give out athleticism score, total score, production score. He's the opposite of Antoine Powell Ryland. No production, basically, to where it should be for an NFL level, prospect, especially one with the name of Hinton. So I would say he's the guy with, the widest range of end games. And if I were betting on one of the two, I'd bet on Cameron Williams, even though I think Hinton has the bigger upside.
Yeah, I like Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams only started 1 year in college. He left after junior.
Yeah, and he played pretty well.
Yeah. So I think if he stayed in college another year, he would have been a much higher draft pick. I'm not saying, I don't know if he would have been round 1 or anything, but I do think he would have been a day 1, day 2 guy.
It's possible. I mean, guys who come out a little bit early. Now, it all depends on how they play. They could also, I think everyone assumes they're going to come back and play well. Well, they could come back and play poorly and hurt themselves. But for I find, like, when the college production is good, like, people harp on it, and when it's not good, they ignore it. So I don't pay as much attention to college production for a number of reasons. One, think about the NFL with 32 teams. It's an unbalanced schedule. I mean, it's never, nobody's got the same schedule, right? Well, in college, how many Division I programs are
there? Exactly. It's an unreliable predictor of whether a player will be good at the next level.
Yeah. So I don't pay a lot of it. Like Joe Osman. who is, by the way, would have made the Eagles at one point if he didn't tear his ACL. But that dude would get like 17 sacks at Central Michigan, and he would have been an NFL player. And Jordan Mailata swears by him to this day and how much he helped him. And he was just, you could see, he was just a great college pass rusher, just great. But he didn't have the size and the length to play at a high level in the NFL. Just didn't. Now, ultimately, Jim Schwartz was trying to figure out a role for him, and he was even using him in sort of a joker role on sort of a stand-up rusher who's going to come in on third downs when he tore his ACL in the preseason, and that ruined it. He would have made the team that year. He probably would have gotten a chance. But, he didn't have the NFL level traits to be a big time pass rusher like he was in college.
Yeah. How about this question here? Jalen Hurts' top 5 is the name, brings this up. I do think this is very interesting because all the time we spend talking about the top 30 visits. He says, what are your thoughts on none of the picks being a top 30 visit? It's almost like maybe Howie realized everybody, knew he was taking his top 30. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe he realized they knew that they were taking their top 30 visits. Not one top 30 visit, John, selected by the Philadelphia Eagles this year.
Yeah, and Howie was asked by, it was actually Ed. Ed asked him on day 3. And he's been very consistent, their information gathering sessions. Sometimes they're looking to get more information on guys. Sometimes they're trying to get to know them better. Sometimes they just want them to meet someone in particular, like a position coach. We clearly put more value on the, and by we, I'm talking about the media, on the top 30 visits being more probably than they are. But there was a lot of defaults for Howie, and what it all defaulted to was we were in a bad draft position. There's a lot of guys they wanted.
Yeah, that were on the top 30 visit that they probably
couldn't get. Right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, he said they tried to trade up in the second round. So, who were they going for? Let's pull up the second round real quick. So they picked 64.
I think they were going for the Commanders guy, Trey Amos. That's who I want.
Well, there's Shamar Turner. He was here. Trey Amos was here. They weren't going to take Mike Green. You can go up to Tate Ratledge. Anthony Belton went way up at 54. Nick Scorton, I doubt it after they took. Again, at one point I'll find out who they were targeting. But I don't know right now. But those are some of the people they could have been targeting. And we'd be having a different conversation. And he also said they tried to trade up in the third round. So I think there's the assumption of, and a lot of people have gone down, we've already talked about, well, they don't want to trade with Howie. And he doesn't believe that. He made a bunch of trades throughout the draft. They just didn't have great draft positioning for obvious reasons.
Super Bowl.
And yeah. So I think they started at 96. So, who were they trying to get up there? Well, Jared Wilson, no. Dylan Gabriel, no. Jonas Sanker, not after they drafted Makuba. Jalen Milroe, no. Emory Jones, Josiah Stewart, maybe. I don't know. Wyatt Millham was the guy they brought in.
Yeah,
Maybe it
right.
was Wyatt Millham. Jacob Parrish. Maybe it was Jacob Parrish.
Was Darius Alexander one of their top 30 visits? I thought he was, right? Or no?
No, not to my knowledge. I got ended up getting 26 or 27. So he could have been. I mean,
yeah, there was only a couple
still
left.
a little bit of a blind spot, but not to my knowledge. And he went he went 65. He was the first pick in the 3rd round.
Right.
But if they could have had him at 64, that's more of the, clearly they could have had him and they went a different direction. And you can make an argument they should have taken him. But I don't see much difference when you end up getting Robinson. I'm not as concerned about that. Although I do think it was a good pick for the Giants. So, but
Giants I like the Giants draft. You mentioned Cowboys had a good draft as well. Commanders draft wasn't as good to me, but
I thought the Giants draft was herky jerky. I thought it's basically good pick, bad pick.
Good pick,
bad pick.
I liked it. I liked it a little more than you. Now I like Dart a little bit more than you. I don't think he's a first rounder, but I think he's decent in value. I think he has a chance to grow into a starter, but we'll see what happens there. John, let me ask you this. Who on the Philadelphia Eagles roster was put on notice by the draft picks this week? All right, you got a defensive tackle. Does that mean anything for Jordan Davis? You got a bunch of offensive linemen. Does that mean anything for Tyler Steen? You got Andrew Makuba. Does that mean anything for Reed or Sidney or any of the safeties? The cornerbacks. Does that mean anything for Keely Ringo? I know, you said Jahad Campbell is not going to be off-ball linebacker. I happen to agree with you, but you also took Smile Munden. Is Nakobe Dean been put on notice? Who do you think is, watching that draft on the Eagles roster and says, shit, I better perform or I'm heading to a new city?
Not many, because it's a very good team. I mean, I think it's more about people that maybe the fan base is built up that probably shouldn't have been built up. Uche as being an example. Like he's got a difficult road now. He's got to beat out Ojulari, who got paid more money, so that's going to be difficult. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, we talked about, he's in trouble. Sidney's going to be here. Could Makuba beat him out? Sure, but Sidney's going to be here. Could Ty Robinson beat out Moro Ajomo? Yeah, it's possible, but Moro's going to be here. Nakobe's, nobody's saying anybody's taking Nakobe's job when he gets healthy.
He's on his last year of his deal, though, right, Nakobe?
Yeah, and that's a difficult. There's two ways that can go, and both are probably not good for him being it. But I'm saying short term. If he struggles again with injuries, well, the Eagles are probably going to move on. And if he comes back healthy and plays like he did last year, well, the Eagles are probably going to move on. It's one of those things where
it's like you got to hit right in the middle. If you're getting a discount, maybe.
So if you're talking about 2026, then I think Munden's more of a piece of the conversation, but not short term. I mean, the Eagles are just really good, so there's not a lot of opportunity for these players to carve out roles, especially the day 3 players.
Let's just assume for a second Nakobe Dean doesn't get a new contract. You think Smile Munden has a better chance to be the off-ball linebacker than Jeremiah Trotter Jr. does?
Not necessarily, but I think it's I haven't seen him, play. I am pretty impressed with Trotter. So, I mean, but it gives you multiple opportunities to hit on one. So, the goal is for one of them to hit, not both of them. So I think it gives you a nice insurance policy that, all right, if Trotter doesn't work out, maybe Munden does, and maybe both don't, and you go 0 for 2. But I like the thought process of, but short term, whenever he's healthy, I mean, obviously, Jakobi's going to be the middle linebacker. So, I mean, there's no doubt on that.
Honestly, John, I think my Jakobi evaluation or prediction is more to do with Zach Baun. Like, I don't think they're going to pay a second linebacker. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean,
they're paying Baun $18 million. Are they going to give Jakobi $8, $9, $10, $12 million? I don't think so.
Probably not. Probably not.
Maybe Vic Fangio's in town now, John. He seems to have, changed Howie's way of thinking a little bit at the very least.
Well, they took 5 defenders to start, but as Howie pointed out, they have a lot of veteran, proven offensive players that get paid a lot of money. So, some of the attrition has to start on offense to pay the defense moving forward. So it's going to start with Jalen Carter next year, perhaps Nolan Smith, down the road, Quinyon and Cooper. If they keep playing at the level they're playing at, you just saw, I mean, Quinyon, that's part of the problem there. It's like you see what outside corners get. If he continues to play at a Pro Bowl level, the numbers he's going to get are astronomical. And the difficulties we've talked about with Cooper DeJean. I do think the Eagles are picking up the option on Jordan Davis.
Well, that was my next topic is where are you on Jordan Davis? Even if you don't think they got his replacement, which I don't think they did. Darius Alexander's not a nose, but does that mean you think they pick it up? I don't know what they're waiting on. A lot of other teams have already picked up 5th-year options on their key players.
Yeah, the Eagles aren't. They don't worry about that. Other teams. Howie said it.
Deadline, May 2nd?
Yeah, Howie said, that's his way of saying, hey, we're picking up the option.
That's Friday.
For us, every contract situation, we'll talk with the players first. I'm reading his exact quotes. We have tremendous confidence and faith in Jordan Davis. That to me is a non-confirmation confirmation.
Really?
Yes. We'll see if I'm right, but
yeah, you're right a lot. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just wondering if they're second guessing Jordan Davis here.
I don't think it's that. I really think people overblow that. It's not that big of a deal. He's still here this year. They don't want him playing under the 5th-year option, because they want the cap number to be better.
So you're saying next year's a bigger year technically?
Well, what I'm saying is and this has happened around the league, I think 5th-year options are a little bit overblown around the league. There are teams who have declined 5th-year options and then extended the player anyway because he had a good year on that 4th year, and they ended up extending the player anyway. So basically all it is a placeholder. He's under contract. I don't know if people understand that. This does not affect the 2025 season. Jordan Davis is here for the 2025 season. This is about the 2026 season and the 5th year on his rookie contract, which spikes up to $13 million or whatever it is, somewhere in that range. Now, that seems like a lot of money, but it isn't if you see what the defensive tackles are paying. But from the Eagles' standpoint, they don't want it because of the cap number. All that goes on the cap, all that $13 million. So they want a longer-term extension. That's where the complication comes in. What do you pay Jordan Davis on a long-term extension? It's fair to point out he's a 2-down player. How much is a 2-down player worth? That is the difficult part of it, to me, not the 5th-year option. Like, how do you envision paying this guy when you have to pay? We just talked about it, a linebacker. When you also have to pay Jalen Carter,
yeah, right,
maybe $40 million.
Legitimately. Ty Robinson's coming, baby.
Well, then you're playing a different defense, though.
Yeah,
They do not, similar to Dallas Goedert, not even similar to Dallas Goedert. People say they don't have an obvious backup. They got a bunch of bodies at tight end. They don't have a backup nose tackle.
No, I know. They'd have to stop the run with the 4-man front is what they would have to do.
Exactly, which they did effectively last year. Very effectively. And like I always say about the esoteric nature of Jordan Davis, he almost has to play. The Eagles have to play poorly on first down it's crazy for him to prove his worth. And they don't want to play poorly on first down or second down or third or any down. But you get my point. It's almost like the more he plays, the less valuable he is. And people want him to play more because it's a very hard concept for people to understand. His job is to stop the run. Right. His job is to turn 1st and 10 into 2nd and 10.
All right, John, if you're the GM of the Eagles, with all that being said, I understand the setup and I understand the esoteric nature of it, as you've called it for many years. Would you pay Jordan Davis?
$13 million? Hell yeah. $20 million?
I'm going to get paid $13 million.
Well, that's the option.
So,
yeah. How high does it go? And I can tell you when he's talking to Vic wants a nose tackle. Now, it's a luxury, And the problem is the Eagles did do such a good job stopping the run with a 4-man front. And the part that is relevant, look, there's no law that says Jordan Davis can improve and become a better 3rd and 8 player than Moro Ajomo or Ty Robinson. But your goal is to get your best 4 pass rushers on the field in obvious passing situation. And here's one for you, by the way, now that JAKIB Campbell's here. I don't know how much Eagles fans have watched Andrew Van Ginkel over the years, but he rushes from the interior in obvious passing situations as a joker, what I was just explaining with Joe Osman and what they were trying to do with him. He does that. So you might see JAKIB Campbell standing up next to Moro Ajomo on 3rd and 13 inside Nolan Smith and say Azeez Ojulari.
Right. For those who don't know, John, what a joker position is, that's basically just a positionless player that you can kind of move around. Is that what it is?
Well, generally, there's different frames. Generally, with NFL teams, it's a stand-up interior rusher.
Okay,
it's not a all-encompassing. Like if to use Van Ginkel as the template, he plays mainly from the edge. He plays off ball, and he plays interior pass rusher. He did last year. If you go back to Miami, similar. And usually the off ball stuff is when injuries occur, and they're like, "All right, let's play him off ball because he's good enough to do it." But he's too good as an edge rusher to keep him off ball that much. And he's also a flat defender, so that's what Vic really wants. He wants to be able to drop an edge rusher in coverage and be competent and fool the quarterback that way. That creates a lot of options for Vic.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of what I think JAKIB Campbell's here to do. But yeah, on paper, he's going to, but my thought process is like, why would you want Jordan Davis on the field in 3rd and 13? And I get people say, well, why can't he get better? Well, yeah, but I'm trying to be realistic. Like, is there a world where he's going to be a better interior pass rusher than
what Milton Williams was?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm trying to be realistic. Is it?
Yeah. So while being realistic, that's where, and you've said it. This is why this is such a hard thing, because somebody brings up a good comment here, and it's, D-Money, this is basically what we're saying to you. The question is, how much do you want to pay for that? I try to tell people that Jordan Davis's job is to stop the run, not get sacks, and keep the linebackers clean. Well, yes, but is that worth $18 million to play 20-25% of the snaps?
Yeah. Well, I would say first, welcome to my world, because I've been trying to explain that to people for.
Yeah, I'm past the explanation. I think the explanation makes a lot of sense. The question for me is the business part of it. What are you willing to pay for that?
Exactly. And I know Vic wants that piece of the puzzle. Jonathan Gannon wanted it. I always go back to the first year of the Nick Sirianni era when Jonathan Gannon was the defensive coordinator. Nobody knew they were playing Vic Fangio's scheme. And nobody knew they were playing Vic Fangio's scheme, including myself, by the way, until JG told me. Nobody knew because they didn't have a nose tackle. And they barely played the 5-man fronts because they didn't have a nose tackle. And when they did, that it was Javon Hargrave playing nose tackle. And Javon Hargrave is a great player, a great interior pass rusher, but he ain't great stopping the run. And certainly not as a nose tackle. So they didn't use it a lot. And then they drafted Jordan Davis. And that's the exact reason, because they needed that player in that defensive scheme. And when Jordan was a rookie, people remember he got hurt. And again, they didn't have a backup, so they had to go out and find Linval Joseph. Coming off the couch in November. And he did, by the way, Linval did a great job that year. But yeah, Vic wants that player in his defense. But again, the business part of it comes into it. If it's just football, he's back. But the business part is a big part of it.
It's the biggest part. We'll see what they end up doing with Jordan Davis. John, another interesting thing today at 4 p.m. is a significant time, not just because the Philadelphia Eagles are at the White House. And by the way, Saquon just had to put out a tweet because the losers in the Eagles fan base can't fathom that somebody would not agree with them on every single thing. I digress. Losers. I'll say that again. We have a lot of losers. It's ridiculous. I mean, Saquon Barkley has to write an epistle on Twitter apologizing or explaining himself for being on the president's helicopter. I mean, come on. But anyway, 4 p.m. today, John, is officially the time where you can sign free agents, and it will not count against the compensatory pick formula. So maybe some of those other free agents that are out there will start signing people, or we'll start getting signed by people, and maybe the Eagles are in play for a couple guys out there. You think Justin Simmons is now off the board with Makuba coming in?
Well, I think he should be off the board. And, we're going to see how much they really believe in these two young players, because maybe they don't, because there is a lot of uncertainty at that particular position. And if you can get Justin Simmons at a decent rate, but, again, big name trap, was a great player, is a great player. Atlanta carpet bombed safety yesterday because they weren't happy with the way he played last year. They were certainly happy with Jesse Bates. They weren't happy with Justin Simmons. So, but I would think, he's out of the equation. And if he's not, tells you right away that they don't have a ton of confidence in Sidney Brown and Makuba hitting the ground running.
Yeah. I guess they would be projecting.
Sorry, I'm reading Saquon's statement. Good.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
for Saquon.
Yeah, I'll read it out so people know what I'm talking about. He tweeted out, LOL, some people are really upset because I played golf and flew to the White House with the president in all caps. Maybe I just respect the office. Not a hard concept to understand. Just golfed with Obama not too long ago, ... And look forward to finishing my round with Trump. Now you get out my mentions with all this politics and have an amazing day. Well done by Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, very well done.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would disagree with Saquon here, not a hard concept to understand. He's right.
Yeah. Right.
He's right to the logical, but he's not right. It is a very hard concept for most people to understand in modern society. Unfortunate, but he's 1,000% right. They're going down to be honored for winning the Super Bowl. Leave them alone. And that goes both sides. If somebody doesn't show up, because it's going to be a story. If Jalen Hurts doesn't show up or Jalen Hurts shows up, it's going to be a story. And I don't care either way. I will support him either way. But same thing with Saquon. He loves golf. He golfed with Obama. He golfed with Trump. Guess what? If I loved golf and I had an opportunity to golf with any president, I'd golf with that president. If they said, hey, John, you want to jump aboard Air Force One or Marine One? I'd say, yeah, you know what, Mr. President? Yeah.
Put a call in, everybody. Let's get Marine One to McMullen's lawn.
Jeez. I mean, grow up, people. Grow up. Not everybody has to be on your fucking team. Litmus test for your personal morality, which is more about getting likes on social media. Stop it. Anyway, there's your tangent.
A lot of losers.
Leave Saquon freaking alone.
Yeah, for real. Losers.
Didn't he do enough for you? My God.
No Limit checks in. A couple super chats here as we wrap up this Monday edition of Birds 365. A big NFL draft weekend. Hope everybody enjoyed the NFL draft. I do love the NFL draft just because all 32 teams are involved. It's like the Super Bowl for everybody, you know, so not only 2 teams involved, but all 32. So from that perspective, it is a fun weekend in the NFL world. No Limit checks in. He says, do y'all think the Browns drafted Shador because they were the team trying to trade up for Jihad and they didn't want us having both? 2 QBs in 4 rounds. It is weird that they took 2 quarterbacks, but I don't know what it has to do with Jihad Campbell.
Well, he's just saying we're the Browns.
Like the Browns didn't want to get
trying to trade up from 33 to 31 to get Jihad. Well, no, everything's not about the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, I don't think the Cleveland Browns are saying, "Oh, we didn't get Jihad Campbell, so we're trying to get." First of all, the Browns aren't even in the Eagles' purview. They're in the AFC. They're not a contender yet. You know, they got bigger things to worry about than the Philadelphia Eagles. Now the Eagles, from what I've heard, they're, as I said, a lot of people thought the Eagles were going to take the shot at Sanders at 145. The Eagles people I talked to, and this is not confirmed, but the people that said they weren't taking them. So, because people think that way and people do, doesn't mean it's the case.
Yeah.
But as far as Campbell, I don't know. I haven't heard if that's the player. Clearly, I mean, the Eagles went up one spot with the belief that there was concern from their perspective that they didn't want to lose Jihad Campbell. Same thing applies. Doesn't mean somebody was coming up. They just wanted to take that out of the equation and were willing to give up a 5th round pick, and they had 4 of them at the time to make sure that it wasn't a possibility. I think a lot of it has to do with the first pick in the second round was Carson Schlesinger, who's a linebacker. But again, here we go. The Eagles didn't draft an all-Paul linebacker. They drafted If you want to call him an edge, or you want to call him a weapon, or you want to call him a flat defender, or you want to call him all of the above, they didn't draft an off-ball linebacker. So just because LB's next to his
they
name,
did with Smile Munden, right? He's an off-ball linebacker.
No, I'm saying at 31, they didn't
31.
draft an all-ball, because I think a lot of it is that Cleveland, a lot of this question is about Cleveland drafting Schlesinger, who's a linebacker,
right?
Who's an off-ball linebacker. So there's LB next to one name and LB next to another.
Right, I got you.
That's
I actually like Schlesinger. I like him. He was a walk-on at UCLA. He's an interesting player.
So I don't think the Eagles drafted an all-ball linebacker in the first round.
Next super chat here, last one of the day. JD3, what's up, brother? Appreciate it. This is our Harrison Bryant fan. He's checking in with a comment about Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant just had 800-plus yards and 12 touchdowns on my Madden franchise, J-Mac. And I don't care if Jerry Jones was president. I'd go to the White House. You and me both, JD3.
Yeah, well, we now know what
800
Harrison
pretty light for Madden, dude.
800, I that I guess case is closed. I guess,
It's a video game. I mean, you can
Cleveland
sliders and
Cleveland. I guess Cleveland and Las Vegas didn't take advantage of the brilliance of Harrison Bryant. I got news for you. If the Eagles make up with Dallas Goedert, the Eagles aren't going to take advantage of the brilliance of Harrison Bryant either. And hopefully the Eagles work something out with Dallas Goedert.
Good stuff there. So appreciate everybody being here on this Monday edition. JD3, thanks for the super chat. Thanks everybody for the likes, the comments, everything today. We do appreciate you being here. The Birds are set to go to the White House today at 4:00. We'll be watching that. We'll talk to you guys about that tomorrow on the show. And we'll continue to break down this NFL draft this week. We'll have Jeff Kerr on, I would presume, maybe tomorrow. He's going down to the White House today. So that's why
I got Caden. I'm going to try to get Jeff on Thursday, but we'll see.
Cool. So
we'll get Jeff at some point.
Yeah, we'll push Jeff back a little bit. I'm going to reach out to Ian Cummings as well and try and get him up. I want to get his reaction. Maybe we'll get Rick Saratella up to get some of the draft guys on to get their reaction to who the Eagles took, what they think of each player that they took. So we'll have plenty of great content this week. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on this Monday edition of Birds 365.
Volume, baby. Got a lot of picks. So I think everybody was disappointed after 2 days, and that's because there were only 2 picks. And then all of a sudden there's 10 by the end of day 3. And there's a lot of excitement about those day 3 picks. But I do think the Eagles got some nice value picks, especially on day 3. And look, they were hampered on the first 2 days of the draft by where they were picking 32, 64, 96. I think, one of the luxuries and one of the reasons Jahad Campbell-Bell was because of his injury. And that's a good value pick. Makuba and trading out of the 3rd round, probably not as much, but with Campbell, the Eagles are good, so they can afford to wait. And I think ultimately, if they're right, they're going to get a player that's going to be very popular, because it's going to be a player that in a lot of ways the Eagles fan base has not seen before. If Vic uses them the way he has used flat defenders in the past.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, great show today, brother. Great week of work, by the way. I do want to thank you here, me personally, and then also from the people in the chat. Great work, man. All NFL draft. It is a real grind. John's down there legitimately all day and night. Leaves out of there like, 12, 1, 2 in the morning, gets home. So, John, well done by you, man. Great week of work. Great job covering the NFL draft. I think everybody appreciates it. Certainly know I appreciate the work you do for us here at JAKIB Sports. So, well done, Johnny Mac. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen. Well done by him covering the NFL draft. Really good job. It is a grind for Johnny Mac. So he goes down there to NovaCare basically in the middle of the day and then is there all night. So there's no doubt about it. It's a grind. How's everybody doing on this Monday morning? I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed the coverage of the NFL draft. I do want to thank you all personally for the support on the draft coverage that we had this weekend. We had really excellent numbers. You guys were showing out in a big way. So we do appreciate that, man. You guys were awesome as always. Again, I always say, we get comments, hey, great content. I'm like, hey, the content's great, but at the end of the day, it's nothing without your guys' viewership. So if you guys weren't here checking in and watching it, what are we doing up here? So I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Dank Bird Gang, Hollywood Hogan, Flexen, Rich Nutt, Brandon Howard, Sig Lord. Good to see all of you guys in here. All right. I do appreciate it. I thought we had really good coverage all weekend long. And I'm excited. I think the Eagles had a pretty good draft class. A couple names that I'm not as excited on as some of the other people are. But I'll tell you, I'm not an expert. I don't know, I could be dead wrong on these guys. I probably would have went with a different direction in a couple of the areas, but other than that, I think the Eagles had a pretty good draft. They replenished the defense as we thought they would do, right? I mean, you lost a lot of defense. So what did they do? Their first 5 picks, defense, right? So they're replenishing that defense. I happen to think that there's more ramifications on the roster than John does. John doesn't think these draft picks have much to do with any of the players on the roster. In other words, Sidney Brown's not in trouble. Jordan Davis isn't in trouble. And I disagree. I think Nakobe Dean's in his last year. I think Smile Munden as the off-ball linebacker is going to be the future, or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think that could be realistic. Tyler Steen, I know he's probably the favorite to win the job still, but shoot, you got a lot of offensive linemen in that room. All it takes is for one dude with certain traits to impress Jeff Stoutland and move into the starter at that role, right? I mean, Tyler Steen hasn't been great at right guard from what he's played so far. I think that's interesting. Jordan Davis, I know everybody likes what he does, and I'm not here to argue with you. I know what Jordan Davis's role is. I don't need you to tell me he's not supposed to get set. I know, I get it. But do you want to pay him $18 million for 25% of the sacks? I don't think so. I don't think the Eagles do. I think they're in a cap crunch. They just let Gardner Johnson walk for $10 million. They're going to let Goddard maybe walk here. So they're trying to crunch cap. You think they're going to pay $18 million to a guy who's playing 20-25% of the snaps? I don't really see that. And I think Ty Robinson is a guy that's versatile enough to, make that defensive line better. I think Ty Robinson's the steal of the draft for the Eagles this year. And shout out to my boy Abe, by the way. All right. Big shout out to Abe. All right. Abe has been talking to me about Ty Robinson for months. I mean, going back to right after the Super Bowl, he's like, yo, Zander, check out Ty Robinson. This is a guy I think in the late rounds that the Eagles could pick up. Abe, well done by you, brother. You got an eye for talent, because the Eagles clearly thought the same as you. So Abe, back to February, has been telling me about Ty Robinson. So Abe, shout out to you, brother. Appreciate you for being here. How about Sidney Brown? I think Sidney Brown is potentially, in trouble. Now, the one thing I would say here is that there is a small chance that the Eagles don't want to pay Reed, right? Like, I know Reed right now is obviously the starter. Reed's a good player. Reed has played very well for this team, but playing well for a couple million is a lot different than playing well and getting 10 million, 11 million, 12 million. So with that contract looming for Reed Blankenship, is there a world that exists where Andrew Makuba and Sidney Brown are your safeties? I wouldn't be too thrilled with that, but maybe that's a world that exists. That could happen. We'll see what happens at the safety position. I mentioned Nakobe Dean. I think he's done. I really do. And after this year, I think Nakobe Dean's gone. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I do like Nakobe Dean. I love his mentality. I love his mindset. I love his approach. I love the way he communicates. I love the way that he is bought into the team and bought into, he's teachable, right? Like, he buys into what Vic is teaching him. Not every player is teachable like that. So I do love Nakobe Dean, but I just have a hard time believing they're going to pay him with Zach Bond, right? They just paid Zach Bond $18 million, which was already unprecedented for the Eagles. They just spent a 5th-round pick on Smile Munden. They spent a 5th-round pick last year on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I don't know there. So we'll see what happens with him. So plenty of questions still to be answered in this draft. It's going to be interesting to see. The rookie camp, we'll learn when that comes pretty soon. All right, so we'll see. John said there's no guarantee on. They didn't kind of put out when that starts yet. Normally, it's a week or two after the draft. So the rookies should be ready to go pretty soon. I'll take a couple comments from the great people of JAKIB Nation. I know I got a couple supers I'll get to as well. Curtis, what's up, my boy? Hope you're doing well. My guy Curtis checking in. Z, what is your take on if you missed out on your guy in the current round? Why not get the guy you like in the next round instead of moving out and missing both? I don't like the extra 5th and 6th rounders. Curtis, I happen to agree with you here. All right, I happen to agree with you here. I thought Howie did a little bit. John kept saying, well, Eagles fans like volume. Not me. Not me. I'd rather move up and get the guys you like. Now, here's the other thing, Curtis. As fans, as viewers, right, it's easy for us to look and just be like, well, why didn't you move up and get this guy, right? Like he was there. Like, this guy was better than having 2 6-rounders. But at the end of the day, Curtis, you do have to have another team to move up with. Every other team is trying to do the same thing the Eagles are trying to do, right? Get the most value from their draft picks. Trade up, trade back, do what they can to get the most value out of their picks. So it's easy for us to say, hey, you took 10 players. You could have taken 8 and moved up and got better players, right? I think that's kind of a perfect world, and I don't know if that's how it is when you're working the phones and when you are in the draft rooms. So while I do appreciate the sentiment, and I happen to agree, I would have rather gotten 8 players and get better players, but I don't know if it works that easy. I really don't know if it works that easy. But I do appreciate the comment. All right. I do appreciate the comment. Eagles Crew says Eagles at the White House today. Looking forward to that. I'm sure Trump will have some snarky, funny remarks to get to the people. I know everybody's going to be all upset with us today. We had a comment at the open of the show. They're literally talking about politics. I'm like, please. And I'm going to try and not use bad language here because I really shouldn't be cursing as much as I do. It's one of my problems, right? Like I have a potty mouth. But shut the literal F up. I don't give a shit what you want to hear me talk about. I'm going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley is a huge part of the Philadelphia Eagles. Him riding on Air Force One, him going to the White House, the Eagles going to the White House. That's going to be part of the conversation. If you don't like it, if you're too much of a snowflake, get out. I don't care. Go watch another show. There's plenty of other people who will enjoy our content. All right? So please save those BS comments for somebody else who gives a shit. I don't give a shit, and I'm not going to let you dictate the content that we talk about here. All right? So, but it is fun today. They're going to the White House. I'm sure Trump, again, as I mentioned, will have some funny remarks. I'm looking forward to seeing if Hurts goes. Hurts had that weird interaction with the reporter where he got asked, and he's like, just basically got quiet on him, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what's going on there. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, just like I say, I'm not mad at Saquon for hanging out with President. I don't care if Jalen doesn't like the president and he doesn't want to go. That's his prerogative. All right. I don't agree with him. I would go, but I'm not going to sit here and change my opinion of Jalen Hurts as a whole if he doesn't want to go to the White House. All right. I'm an adult. I hope you're all adults as well. You can look and say, that guy doesn't agree with me about everything in life. That's life. That's what makes the world turn. That's what makes Birds 365 exist, because we don't all have the same opinions. All right. So give everybody the space and stop being so self-absorbed that your opinion is the only opinion that what matters in the world. All right. Relax. The Birds won the Super Bowl. It's an honor to go to the White House. Okay. Cool. Leave it at that. Jalen Hurts is top 5. What's up, brother? That's a catchy nickname. That's why, or catchy name on the chat. That's why I always go to you. Xander, if Howie hits next draft, this team is going to be crazy. It already is, but just think of what we can add next draft. Nah, man, you're right, bro. They had 12 picks next year. You got 3 third-rounders. You got, I think, 2 fourths and 4 fifths. So, what are you doing? Like, you can move up next year. Jalen Hurts is top 5. You're going to have an amazing opportunity to kind of play it as you want. Like, again, I'm not saying you're going to be able to go to the top of the board. I happen to think we're going to be at the bottom of the first round again, just because of how good the team is going to be. But with those 12 picks, you should be able to shake and bake a lot. All right. So Hurts is top 5. You're right, bro. It should be a good. Now I'm already excited for next year's draft, and it's only Monday after the draft this year. So I appreciate the comment, brother. I appreciate the comment. All right. Secunda checks in. Is it an honor if the White House is crawling with Nazis like Elon and Stephen Miller? Secunda. Not everybody agrees with you, brother. It's all right. All right. A-Team says, Anif, I'm not going to go down this route. I don't want to go down. Jason, I love you, but I'm not going to go down that. Let me go up to some other comments because I don't really want to get into the political stuff. I just told you my spin on it. All right. Drozone checks in. Howie basically said he's going to say F them picks next year and go for whoever they want. Good. Good, Roseman. That's exactly what I'd like to see. All right. It's exactly what I'd like to see. All right. So I think that'd be a great thing to do. And you're going to have the opportunity to do it, right? You're going to have the opportunity to do it with 12 picks, 3/3. I mean, that's going to be great to see. Sewell Blaze checks in. Reed is the vet back there now. Can't get rid of him. He brings the swag and juice. Got to resign him. Sewell, I happen to agree. You know, the other thing I like about Reed is that Vic's defense relies a lot on communication. Guys that can speak, guys that communicate with the other, the other players on the defense. It's a zone-based system, right? So they rely on communication. And when you lose guys like Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson, for whatever you thought of those two guys, they were vocal leaders. They were vocal guys on that defense, right? CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't shut up. Darius Slay obviously has a mouth as well and likes to use it, talks, communicates, is loud, and was a good player. So you're losing those two guys, which I think increases the value of Reed Blankenship as the communicator, right? I love Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon's a more reserved dude. He's quiet. Now, I don't know how he is on the field. Maybe he's a little bit more loud and vocal on the field, but, Reed is kind of that the crux of the communicators on that defense. So I think he's more valuable because of that. I really do. So good take there, man. Good take there. Brandon Howard checks in. Yeah, man, I wake up every morning with a great attitude about life first and foremost, but definitely about the Eagles. I swear some people just love to be naked and complain, not to fix anything. I'm with you, bro. And I'm with you. I wake up every day. I'm happy to be alive, bro. I'm happy to breathe air today. I really am. It's a beautiful blessing that God has bestowed upon us, all right? I wish I didn't I wish I didn't comment on the politics, because now the chat is littered with it, but that's all right. Look, it's all good. It's all good. Just be respectful of one another. All right. Everybody's got different opinions. All right. Sakuna says, remind me of your position on the genocide in Gaza. How about I don't want any people to die anywhere on earth, Sakunda? That's my take. All right. I don't like death. All right. I don't want anybody to die, especially women and children. Okay. I'm not going to comment anymore on that, though. Obviously, there's a lot of issues in the world that happen that are a lot bigger than me. I'm a sports talk host, brother. Do you come to me? To frame your worldview? All right. Hey, listen, I love me too. All right. I'm a fan of myself too, but don't listen to me on everything. Okay. I'm humble enough to know what I don't know. All right. I am not the arbiter of anything. All right. Don't come to me. You guys are smart enough to know you can make up your own mind on things. You don't got to hear me. All right. Josh B with the comment of the day. Turns out there's a lot of children in the chat. Yeah, there is. There is. Abe checks in. What's up, Abe? Xander, if the Bears or Saints are open to trade, would you consider trading Jordan Davis for Brian Brees or Javon Dexter Sr.? Both were drafted in 23. I don't know. I'd like a little more value out of that. I don't know what Brian Breesy's done or Javon Dexter Sr. I don't even know that player, but I know Brian Breesy, obviously. I don't know, Abe. I don't really know what kind of value Jordan Davis has in the trade market right now. I mean, I know he's valuable to the Eagles, but it might be one of those things, Abe, where you know how sometimes people are more valuable like where they are than they are elsewhere? Like if somebody doesn't have that player, I'm not saying they wouldn't like him, but would they send a draft pick to get him? Maybe not. Like he's almost more valuable here to the Eagles because our defense does kind of rely on him a little bit. So I don't know. I do think the Jordan Davis thing is more interesting than John leads on. You know, John kind of shuts up anything about Jordan Davis. I think it's an interesting conversation. I don't know if they're going to pay him. I'm not sold that they're going to pay him. I know the fifth year option is a little bit less consequential, but I don't know, man. Do you want to pay that guy for that much, for that production? I know the Eagles need it, but I think it comes down to Vic. Like, I think Howie's going to go to Vic and say, if I pay Jordan Davis, I'm not going to be able to pay, you might not want to hear this, but maybe it's Reed Blankenship. Maybe it's, Nakobe Dean. Maybe it's Moro Ujoma. I don't know who it could be that's coming up on a contract. But if you're going to pay Jordan that money, you're probably not going to be able to pay everybody. So do you go to Vic and say, these are your options, and what should we do, right? Do you value this player more than you value this? Maybe Vic says yes. Maybe Vic says, I need a run stopper. Keep Jordan Davis. That's certainly possible. All right. That's certainly possible. Xander, I love the way you see things. Sometimes I feel like J-Mac shuts things down too quick instead of exploring your ideas. Yeah, that's all right. That's part of what makes John John. You know, I don't like changing people. Like I think people like John because John is John, right? John has a certain way of analyzing things, of discussing things, of shutting things out, of analyzing players. And again, he's not always right. He's not always right, but his delivery is consistent. And I think people appreciate that, you know, just like Cilio, you know what you're going to get from Cilio, which is a great, knowledgeable sports talk host who happens to be the most entertaining man on the planet. All right. You're going to get that from Sills. You're going to get a different take from John. And that's kind of what he is, right? John is an old school mentality for sure. Nichols, for sure. All right. Let me see if I can find some good comments on football here. D Money says Caleb Downs will be the number 1 2026 draft pick. Caleb Downs is a special player, man. I wish he did not. I will not. I'm not a fan because he left my school. All right. But I can't blame him because Nick Saban left. So he's like, Caleb Downs is like, yeah, I'm freaking out of here. And he proved to be right because I'm not a big fan of the coach that's down at the University of Alabama right now. All right. Here's my boy, Bob Brown. Bob, what'd you think of the draft, brother? I'll read your comment here. Let me know what you think of the draft overall. Xander, I think that Davis will get the option exercised, but not extended unless he balls out. If we don't exercise the option, we lose out in the comp pick. I think Howie buys him one more year. I agree. Here's Bob. Here's the one thing I'd say to that. All right. Here's the one thing I'd say to that, Bob, is remember what Howie likes to do, you know, and it's easy to say this, Bob. Like, I agree. I think they'd love to give him that one extra year. I think that's the sweet spot. And then after that, it makes your decision a little bit easier. So I agree with that. Howie hates the 5th-year option because it doesn't give you any cap flexibility. It's built in. So, like, Bob, look at what he did with Josh Uche. He signed Uche to a minimum contract and still added 4 years of void years to lower the cap hit. Like, bro, he is playing with $1 million contracts. That's how much he cares about void years and structuring every deal the right way so that he can build the rest of the roster. So if you're telling me, like, hey, pick up the 5th-year option, all right, it's $13 million and it's locked in. No manipulation. Can't change it. Can't add void years. Can't do anything. That's your cap hit. That's what it's going to be. That's the one part of that where I'd say, is Howie going to want to do that? You know, I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong, Bob. I happen to agree. If I could give him one extra year and say at $13 million, I think that's perfect. I think that's the perfect sweet spot. But then Howie can't shake and bake it. What does Roseman think of that? You know, that's my question there. All right, that's my question there. But Bob, I think overall, I think your premise is right on the money. That's how I happen to see it as well. Flex, look at Flex talking about my goal every day is 10,000 steps. Yeah, that's dope, Flex. Me too. I wear this Whoop. It tracks my steps and everything. So my dad wears a Whoop too. I was with my dad. I'm looking at my dad's Whoop. Bro, my dad, guess what my dad's average steps are a day, Flex, in the last like 6 months? My dad's averaging 27,000 steps a day. 27,000. I'm like, holy shit, Krause. You're on the move. Pretty insane, man. 27,000 steps a day. But that's what they say. You should get a lot of steps. 10, 12,000 a day is a good goal. My goal is tries to be 12, but I do fall short. The dogs help with that, right? Having the dogs is a help with that. You walk the damn dogs. I don't know how many miles that is a day. Somebody would have to do that. I know, but my dad's crazy. His data on his Whoop is nuts, man. A lot of steps for my pops. I said it's good for him, man. He's 60 years old. Keep moving, brother. Keep moving, Krause. I need you alive for the next 30 years. All right? So I told him, keep moving. But good stuff there. Curtis says, Z, you killed it. The one political take I want to hear from non-political broadcasters. If you hate someone for their opinions, you're a loser. Yeah, I agree. There we got a lot of losers. Unfortunately, we have a lot of losers in the fan base. All right. I love Jihad, Xander. Eagles fan family seems like a good kid. He certainly does, man. I think he's like a Red Star guy, you know, a Red Star guy. So I'm with you. I'm a big fan of the Campbell pick. I'm just curious for Eagles because my thing on Campbell right now is that I'm so curious about is like I have a lot of respect for a lot of people that talk about this game. John was one of them. Cilio's one of them. A couple people that I follow on my Twitter. A guy named Eagles Eric. I'm not sure if you know him. He's on Twitter. He's really dope. I mean, he clearly understands the game of football. He dives deep into the analytical, the contract, the value, the total breakdown of players. And he doesn't really see Jahad Campbell as being a pass rusher. So I'm super interested. Is John right? Are the Eagles right in their evaluation that he can, be a pass rusher? Is he going to fall into an off-ball linebacker? I have a hard time believing they spent a 31 overall pick on that, but that's where I'm most interested about Campbell is what does it actually look like? But because Howie said that, I got to go to that a little bit more just because I don't think Vic would. I think Vic probably talked about him, I think Vic probably talked to him about it. And that would be my take. All right. Your dad would have to have a dog walking side job to rack it up. Nah, Slagger. My dad just is on the move all the time. And by the way, my dad's the kind of guy he'll walk the dogs 30 times a day. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. But I hear you. 27K steps is a lot. I'm telling you, I was scanning through his Whoop data. I was with him and I'm like, let me check out your Whoop data. And I'm looking at his data and I'm like, what? What the heck? 27K. And that was the average. He's had days where he's 35K, 40K, 45. The day of the parade, I had 35,000. My dad had 57,000 steps on the day of the parade. The day of the parade, the Eagles parade, when we were down there 4:45 in the morning, setting up everything to do our broadcast. 57,000 steps. Freaking insane, man. Insane. But hey, listen, I'm happy because it's good for him. It's good for his body. Keep him moving, man. Keep him moving. Keep him moving. I love my pops, bro. So I want him to be around for as long as God will allow him to be. All right. Why am I excited for next year's draft? Because we got 88 picks, Kirsten. That's why. We're going to be able to do what we want, man. Howie's going to be able to shake and bake. Bob Brown. What's up, Bob? Xander, I think Howie would love to extend Davis and build in the 5th year, give him flexibility, but that forces a commitment. I agree. They need to determine if the juice is worth the squeeze. Bob, you're right on the money. Per usual, Bob, you're right on the money on that. Bob, you're on the money about just about everything except for hats, all right? Bob, you don't know a damn thing about hats, all right? In fact, your take on hats, is absolutely atrocious, okay? Atrocious. But football, you're good, Bob. Football, you're pretty good. Midnight says, does Makuba beat out Brown for the starting safety role? I believe so. Well, here's the thing, Lexicon. Look at the second-round picks the Eagles have taken recently, man. Last year, Cooper DeJean, one of the best players on our defense. The year prior, who was the year prior? It wasn't Cam Jurgens the year prior. Oh, no, I don't think they took a second-round pick. I don't think they took a second-round pick last year. Let me look. Who was a second-round pick 2 years ago before Cooper? Yeah, there was no one because they took Carter and Nolan, and then they didn't have a second-round pick. They took Steen in the 3rd round. So just going at second-round picks, right? You got Cooper DeJean. All right? You got Cam Jurgens 3 years ago. You got Landon Dickerson. You got Jalen Hurts. All right? Those aren't bench riders, Midnight Lexicon. Those are big parts of the Philadelphia Eagles roster. So you took Makuba in the 2nd. I know it's a little later. I understand. Jurgens was 51. Cooper was 40. Jalen Hurts was 53. Landon Dickerson was 37. Tyler Steen was 65. Makuba was 64. All right, so he's closer to Steen, so maybe he's not that looked at as that starter right away. You were at the bottom of the 2nd round because you won, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of thinking that they drafted Makuba to be a starter. I don't know. What does everybody think of Makuba? I've had a lot of back and forth. I got a lot of hate comments on the YouTube and in the chat from. I don't even think I was that hard on Makuba. I'm just like, hey, listen, I think there's some risk here with the size of the player. Everybody's like, ah, and I'm like, all right, relax, man. I don't think about it like you. It's all good. Different opinions. Again, go back to that theme. There's Jalen Hurts. Not everyone wants to wear a kangaroo pouch on their heads. And hey, that's perfectly fine, brother. You do what you do. I'll do what I do. All good. That's what makes the world go round, brother. All right. I appreciate it. All right. That's funny. That's funny. I wanted Kevin. So I thought they were going to go Winston, honestly. I'll take that, Cheryl. He says, trust the cook. Wait and see what he puts out on the plate. Let Vic work. I'm with you. I do trust Vic. Lexicon follows up. He says, I usually don't like small tweener guys, but they have been money for us lately. I'll trust Howie. I agree. I'll defer to Howie. Abe says, Xander, I'm like 70-30 leaning his way. I'm probably like 60-40, maybe like 58-42, somewhere in there. Abe, somewhere in there, 58-42. Dank Bird Gang, what's up, dog? My point yesterday was that when it comes to his weight, the help he'll get in the weight room will help his current. Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, Dank, do you agree at least that, like, it will benefit him to put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle weight as a pro? Because, like, if that's what your take is, then I agree with you. If you're saying, hey, his weight now is not going to be what his weight is when he plays, and that's why it won't matter as much, then I can agree with that. But as it stands right now, you did draft an undersized player, and I agree. I mean, 10 to 15 pounds in the weight room will be, I think, money for him. I think that would be money for him. I think that's what he needs, in fact. Yeah, D-Money says Earl Thomas was the same size as Makuba when he was drafted. Yeah, well, let's not go too far, all right? I don't know if Makuba is going to be Earl Thomas, but I appreciate it. M. Reyes, how you doing, my man? Hope you're doing well. How is it over in Texas, brother? It's hot. Got to be hot in Texas. It was weird. A weird weekend here outside of Philly. It was like warm, but it was like windy. It was like really windy. I'm like, all right, it's like sunny but windy. Emre says, I think it's because he's the same size as CJ and Dawkins at draft day, but he got a size comment and nobody really questions those other dudes. That's fair. Let's see. Let's put on those 10, 15 pounds. Dank says, see, Dank, I'm right in your ballpark. Yes, I think if he's 190, 195, it would help. That's right around me, Dank. If he can get to 195 to 200, I think that's money. That's money. I think that's perfect for him. All right. I think 185. Now, here's the one thing I don't like. That I think there's a lot of people, and I'm not mad at these people, but I cover the game and I do this every single day. So obviously I have to, I do my homework. I have to do a lot of homework. I research, all sorts of things. I talk to John and Cilio every day. Like I have a grasp on it because it's my life. It's not my hobby. People kept commenting to me, he's 195, look at his pro day. And I'm like, guys, that's put out by his team, by his college. Like, colleges do have a tendency to lie and promote their player. It's in their best interest. All right. The NFL.com, the NFL Combine is an objective, actual evaluation. That's not fudged. Now, you're not wrong. His weight can change from the Combine to now to the start of the season, obviously. Just like I'm sure many of your weights have changed and my weights change. 1 week I'm fat. 1 week I'm not. 1 week I eat chocolate and sweets. 1 week I don't. All right. My weight changes. I get that. But his combine result is the better metric to go off of than what his pro day said. Again, on Ty Robinson, he's 300 pounds. At the combine, he was 288. All right. Let's go off that. All right. When he gets another evaluation, let's see. All right. But I the teams kind of blow smoke. They do blow smoke. Let me get to some super chats, bro. Whoa, we got a lot of super chats coming in. Appreciate that. Yo, Zay, fave player besides Jihad. Mine's Ty Rob. I'm with the Sua. It's my favorite player in the draft. All right, Jihad Campbell. I wasn't as big on the Makuba pick. I like Campbell, and I happen to like the last pick of the draft. Antoine Powell Ryland, APR, I'm calling him, but very productive player in college. I know he doesn't have the traits, so John wasn't as high on him, but I really like that player. I think he could be a sneaky guy that contributes at some point. Maybe not this year, but a couple years down the line. Appreciate it, Suo. Jason 18, what's up, brother? A lot of draft picks. Do you think Eagles go heavy on undrafted free agents like usual? We have more than normal, so I don't see much movement afterward. Well, we did take 10 picks, 18. You're right. That's a lot of draft picks, but they did sign, it looks like, 9 undrafted free agents. So that's a lot too. Fly Eagles fly. What's up, brother? Thank you for all the draft coverage over the weekend, Z. We appreciate you. I love the Campbell pick. Keep Goddard. Stop the Reed blasphemy. All right, good stuff. Thank you for appreciating the draft coverage, man. A lot of work, but I do appreciate doing it, and I love doing it. At the end of the day, my voice is kind of gone. I was joking with you guys. Thursday, I was live for like 11 hours. Me personally was live talking on air for 11 hours. I did 3 hours in the morning on Birds 365. I did an hour with Cilio. We did a 5-hour draft show, and then we did a 2-hour recap. So that was 5, 7, 8 with Cilio, 3 in the morning. That's 11 hours on live Thursday. That was me personally. Then Friday came around, same thing, 3 in the morning on Birds 365. An hour with Cilio is 4. Then we did a 4.5-hour draft show, and an hour after, that's 5.5. Plus 4 in the morning, that was almost 9 hours of coverage. So that's 20 hours. And then yesterday we were live for however long after each pick. So lost my damn voice. I'm talking too much, man. I lost my damn voice. But no, it was good. It was a lot of fun doing the coverage. And again, it would be nothing without all you guys. So I do appreciate it. I do appreciate everybody being here. Stop the read blasphemy. I'm kind of with you. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. It's an option, brother. And keep Goddard. We'll see what they do. We'll see what they do with Goddard. Sixers really killed me. Yeah, me too, Sig. I've been watching the playoffs. I saw someone just asked. I didn't get to the comment. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody asked if I'm watching the NBA in the playoffs. I haven't watched much. I've watched a little bit of that Lakers Timberwolves series. I really like Anthony Edwards. I just like that. I like that. I don't give a F mentality. I like that. Like, I don't care you're LeBron James. I'm going to play with you. I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to push off you. I'm going to make you answer me. I love that shit. I absolutely love that shit. Reminds me of Jordan. I think that's been missing in the NBA for a little bit. I like LeBron. He's a talented player, but he's buddy-buddy with everybody. He's buddy-buddy with everybody, man. Give me a killer. Where are the killers? Right? I like that. So I've been watching that series. I'll probably watch some OKC. I know they just swept. They just swept the I think it was Memphis that they sweep. Yeah. So I'll definitely be tuning in a lot more now in the second round. I've been watching the NHL playoffs as well. I love the NHL playoffs. Always have, always will. I think it's great. All right. Thanks. I'll probably watch the finals. Probably. Yeah, I'm watching it. Xander, I think the Campbell pick allows Nolan to play more off ball than edge. Wow, you think Nolan's going to play off ball? Nolan is in an off ball role as a better fit. Get him off the line so his athleticism can really take over. You think off ball, though? That's interesting, Bob. I don't know if they would go that route with him. I kind of like your thought process because he does have that athleticism, but I just don't know if they would go down that route. We'll see, though. Curtis checks in. Xander, asking an experienced lifter to add 15 pounds naturally is tough. Yeah, Curtis, I understand that. I don't know if everybody else does. I think people think putting 15 pounds on is like easy to do. Bro, if you're in the gym all the time and your weight is kind of like you're already optimized from a body standpoint and you're ripped, 15 pounds is a fucking lot. Is a lot, especially for a dude who has a smaller frame body. It's not like he's 6'6". Like, he's 5'11" or whatever he is. That's a good point, Curtis. It's easier for a newbie. Facts. That sounds like more of a goal for the start of the 26th season. Curtis, I agree with you. I think you're right on the money with that. Charlie says, get on the juice. Charlie, you might need to, brother. Good to see you in here in the morning, Charlie. I appreciate it, brother. I know you're a big Sills watcher. Midnight Lexicon. I find the dichotomy between offense and defense interesting. A strong physical O who looks to take the will from the D versus our fast, small defense. Yeah, Midnight. John said an interesting point on our draft coverage. He's like, the Eagles keep drafting these smaller dudes. I wonder if the Eagles Eagles defense could stop the Eagles offense. And I'm like, you're right. The Eagles offense plays bully ball, and the Eagles defense is prepped to stop cutesy football. They got all athletes. So I hear you. I hear you, brother. Hey, it's an interesting thought. Lexicon. All right, everybody, I got to go. All right, I do appreciate it, man. Great stuff today on the draft coverage. Overall, I think the Eagles had a pretty good draft. I will remind everybody, it wasn't that sexy this year, but hey, you won the Super Bowl, man. You were picking 32. Jammers, I thought your guys' draft was okay, bro. Jammers, I thought you guys, unfortunately for you, I thought you guys were fourth in the NFC, in your NFC East in drafting. I thought the Giants had a great draft. I thought they won. I thought the Eagles came in at 2 for me. I thought the Cowboys came in at 3. I love the Ezraku pick. John brought that up. Great pick for them. They got some good players, Jaden Blue. And I thought, the Commanders didn't wow me. Outside of Trey Amos in the second, Commanders didn't wow me that much. Just kind of looking at what they did. You got Josh Connerly in round 1. Good, but Virginia Tech wide receiver Jalen Lane. I think he could be a solid player in round 4. You had no 5th. Round 6, you took Kane Madreno, UCLA linebacker. Yeah, 6s and 7s are kind of shots in the dark, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I saw that, the new stadium, Rich. They got a new stadium, so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool for you jammers. Hopefully you guys can go to that stadium. Tickets will probably be $842 for a nosebleed. But hopefully the new stadium is good looking, better than your shitty ass field now. Hopefully. All right. Hopefully. Is that where it is, Rich? It's back in DC. So they're leaving Maryland back to DC. All right. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I love that our draft guys was called Violent Kirsten. I'm with you on that. You know, I have a T-shirt that says "Give Violence a Chance." I might wear that on the show tomorrow. I got to find that sucker. Give violence a chance. Give violence. Everybody be like, no, give me your opinion on everything. Don't do this, Xander, because I told you not to. Shut the F up. All right. All right. Relax. So, all right, everybody. I appreciate you all being here. Hit that like button. We had a great crowd in here today. All right. I do appreciate it. It was a good draft weekend. We'll have plenty of great content. I'm going to reach out to Ian Cummings and Rick Saratella. All right. I want to get both of those guys on because, I think they'll have good breakdowns of the players that we picked up. You know, maybe some more in-depth analysis of the players. These are draft nicks, so they like really dive into every player. So if I give them a little heads up, hey, we want to get you on, maybe they'll dive into the Eagles draft and they'll come with some good breakdowns of the players. All right. So excuse me. So I'll do that. I'll reach out to those guys, see if we can get them up here on Birds 365. We had no Jeff Kerr today because he's heading down to the White House. Again, if I see any of you fucking nerds crying that somebody went to the White House, then get out of here. You're not a JAKIB Sports viewer. All right? Stop being a nerd. Stop being a child. Stop being a child. Okay? We're human beings. We have different opinions. All right? I'm a proud conservative. I don't hate people who are not. Okay? Secunda says, F the White House. Secunda, I still like you. You're still a human being. I still think we have more alike than we have differences. All right? All right? Dang. People crying. M. Reyes. This guy's a freaking camel flag waving humper. All right? I still love him. I still love him. He's a human being. Stop treating people like dirt on the bottom of your shoe. You don't got to do that. All right? You don't got to do that. I'm perfectly good with this take. Dank says, I hate Trump. I don't care that players are at the White House. Thank you, Dank. I think that's a good take. All right. I think that's a good take. All right. I think that's a good take. White House. And there's this. White House, baby. Go Birds. Love to see it. I'm with you, Mad Bird. But again, I don't mind what people think. All right. Just stop acting like Saquon Barkley is a fool for flying on Marine One. All you dickheads. Ready? All of you. Again, excuse my French. There's that bad language coming up. All right. If Marine One offered to take you on a spin and you could fly on Air Force One, all right, the most powerful plane in the world, you would do it. Including you, Secunda, and including you, M. Reyes. All right? So relax, everybody. Let's be adults. Let's be adults. You know, again, I call myself a conservative. Here's the thing, though. I'm not conservatives are there's a lot of conservatives who are to blame too. You know, stop treating other people like again, dirt on the bottom of your shoe. We're all human beings. All right. Relax. People got different opinions. People got different takes. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Fucking M. Reyes. There he is. I love M. Reyes. He says, I've been on Marine One. That thing's kind of a hunk of shit. Yeah, no, the White House could use an upgrade, I think. Gracias, bro. Don't call me a Kamala supporter. I don't support genocidal parties. DSA, baby. I don't know what DSA means, but Secunda, I appreciate your take, and I appreciate you being able to converse with somebody that has a different opinion than you. All right? This guy, conservative life, baby. That's why I love the South. Go Birds, fly, Eagles fly, Trump. Yo, people are hilarious, bro. I love people. I think human beings in general are funny and cool. I like humans. Even humans that disagree with me, because I'm not so self-absorbed that I think my way is the only way to think about life, for crying out loud. Good night. Oh, look who's back. My girl, Izzy B. What's up, Izzy B? Good to see you back in here. Kirsten's in here. We got a good crowd in here. It's funny. Good crowd in here. Backup plan says, don't have to love Trump to love the country. It's crazy because most of the civilized worlds are jealous of our leadership. Yeah, for sure. Larry going to give Trump a dead fish handshake. Nah, that's going to be Sirianni. Sirianni's got the dead fish, and I can confirm it because he's giving it to me. He's giving it to me. Nick Sirianni shook my hand. I'm like, oh, is that the coach of our football team? But hey, he won the Super Bowl. All right, he won the Super Bowl. So what am I going to do? All right. What's up? What I missed? See, Cody K, you missed a great show. All right. You missed a freaking great show is what you missed, Cody K. In fact, I feel sorry for you that you missed this amazing show. All right. Also, Z, different with our draft. We didn't need much to pick up. Oh, my God. Yeah, look at this guy. Look at this dude. James Jones. Oh, my God. What am I going to do with you Commander fans? James, you've had one good year in 25 years. Now you don't need anybody? Are you crazy? James, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your freaking mind, James? You don't need shit. Every team in the league needs stuff. Now you don't because you have one good year in 88 years? Good night, James Jones. You're drinking that Kool-Aid, man. Boy, what's his name? Josh Harris. He drugged you up. Jammers. The Commanders are complete and ready to win the Super Bowl. Man, shut up. Your quarterback's about to regress this year, too, because you heard Johnny Mack say it. He's got holes in his game, and the NFL is studying those holes right now. He better be able to patch those up, or he will have a sophomore slump. Sophomore slump coming for you, Jammers. I hate when bench players talking like starters. I hate it. Let's go, Dank. Is that a Drake line? A Drizzy Drake line. Nice. Dank says, that's what I'm saying, Z. Commanders think they're a few pieces away. They're drinking Delulu land, bro. They're in Delulu land. All of them. Look at Jammers in here. He's in Delulu land. He said, we don't need anything. The only team in the NFL that didn't need anything was the stupid Commanders that had one winning season in like literally 2 decades. Even Texas boy knows that the Cowboys needed some stuff. Hey, Texas boy, I think the Cowboys had a good draft, bro. He says, bet you the Eagles are going to fall off and not repeat them Washington to be trash. I think the Eagles have listen, Texas boy, I know you don't like the Eagles, but the Eagles have a good core, bro. I think you can be objective and admit that. The Eagles have a good core of players. You know, with Jalen Carter on the defense, obviously, Zach Bond, offensively, you obviously have that offensive line. You have Saquon, you got AJ and Devontae. Like, look, you don't have to like the Eagles, but that's a good core. That core is better positioned to win than the core of really any other team in the NFC East. And I think the Cowboys had a good draft. Texas boy, you'll be happy to know that I'm one of the people telling Eagles fans I think the Cowboys are going to be better this year because they're getting their quarterback back. You're getting Dak back. You're going to be better with your quarterback back. That's what happens. And I think you had a good draft. I think Ezra Raku is going to be a home run for you guys. Look, one more time, Xander. Slowly. We didn't need much. Oh, I know, Jammers. You guys are the best team in football. Your quarterback is number one. Your GM is number one. Your owner is now number one. Hell, you might even tell me that FedEx Field is the best field in football, for crying out loud. Jammers, just admit you're drinking Kool-Aid, all right? Highly sweetened Kool-Aid, and you're on the sauce. It's all good. You can be on the sauce, brother. You're on the sauce, though. Admit it. Look, I didn't say that. Yes, you did, Jammers. You can't take it back now, fool. Jammers, don't try and play me. You don't try and play me, Jammers. Branch checks in. These defensive coordinators been studying film on Jaden all offseason. Vic's got the blueprint to beat Washington. You guys are toast. Commanders will finish third in the NFC East. Ready? By the way, I like Jackson Dart. I was watching film on him. Eagles, 1. Cowboys, number 2. Commanders, number 3. New York Football Giants, number 4. Remember, I told you that. That is my prediction for the NFC East this year. Eagles 1, Cowboys 2, Commanders 3, Giants 4. Giants 4. Wow, Charles, that's good. That's good intel right there. He says, Xander, way before you were born. Yeah, what is that? 33 years before I was born. Best draft ever was 1965. Joe Namath, Gale Sayers, Dick Butkus, Mike Curtis. Best draft ever. That's a crazy draft. Wow. Joe Namath, Gale Sayers, Dick Butkus, and Mike Curtis. Wow. Wow. Good intel there, Charlie Swift. That's why I do love having our OGs around. You know, they teach me stuff. I love that. Bob Brown, Joe Whipp, Charlie Swift. A lot of you guys are older. I mean, not everybody publicizes it, but I know Joe. I've met Joe in person. I know Bob Brown because I talk to him on the post-game show every week, and he's been a big supporter of JAKIB for 4 years. So I appreciate it. Charlie, I know that. I know you, man. And I know Wayne the Pain, my guy Wayne the Pain. The longer these shows go, the more Z sounds like Sales. I don't sound like anybody but me, bro. I don't sound like anybody but me. I get that comment. I'm like, no. No. If anything, I'm becoming more myself on the air. And that's what you're seeing. Less reserved, more myself. But I hear you. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not Mr. Butter you up all the time, all right? All right? I'm not that type of dude. I'm not that type of dude. Curtis, what do you want me to do? Give you a foot rub and a massage? Good night, Curtis. All right? Oh, my gosh, Curtis. Now I'm going to mock you. When you were mocking James, I had some sills to it. Why? Anybody that mocks somebody's got sills to it? By the way, if you come up here and you don't mock people, then it'll get out of hand quick. All right. So you got to set some people straight. You know, people come in here talking crazy. You got to set them straight a little bit. All right. All right, everybody. I got to go. The voice changed a little when you were mocking James. Well, that's because I lost my voice doing all that draft coverage. It was fun, though. It was fun. All right, I got to go. Izzy says, I want a foot rub. Izzy, I wouldn't touch your foot with a 10-foot pole. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't touch your foot with a 10-foot pole. Got my appointment for Hand and Stone. Don't need a massage from Z. All right, dog. Good. I wasn't touching you anyway either, motherfucker. Fucking nasty ass. Why don't you go get in the shower, Lexicon, before you head over there? Nasty ass people. Nasty ass people. Good to see you, Z. Very early out west. Yeah, I know you're out west, Charles. That's why I was happy to see you, bro. I'm like, you're not normally in the morning, but I don't hold you against you. I know you're in Cali. What time is it out there? 8 a.m., 7 a.m.? I appreciate you being here. This guy says, I never get mentioned with the girls. I need a better handle, I guess. Forgive me. Forgive me if the eyes go to the women. What do you want me to be? A cheesecake? Eagles? Are you a woman? Is that what you're saying that? All right. James Jones, Z, always a pleasure. James, you know I love you, brother. Your team stinks, but you know I love you. Z, came out to the Masters and we'll grab food, but stay away from my feet. LOL, Curtis. I ain't touching your nasty ass fucking feet. I'll come out there rocking those new Navy SBs, though. I like those. All right. All right, everybody. Great show. I've said bye. How many times? 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. How many more times can I say bye to you guys? Gosh. You guys are holding me up. Holding me up. I got some work to do, though. I'll tell you what. I got some work to do. It's going to be grinding. Xander is doing the awkward same hallway goodbye. Yeah, I know. I've done it like 12 times. Ryan, fuck you. You beat it. This is my channel. In fact, I might stay on for another 2 hours. How about that, Ryan? I got your extra small t-shirt in the mail. All right, everybody. I'm actually done now. See you next time, everybody. I love you all.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, We're talking about it, debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.